Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description.
King and Queen of the Pirates by Bleach Anime Fan 1. Once there was a legendary pirate by the name of Goldie Roger. Before he died, he had left a treasure at a place called One Piece. However, many pirates from all over the world has set sail to find it. Monkey D. Luffy and his twin sister Monkey D. Aya promised themselves that they will be the ones to find it and become king and queen of the pirates. Adios.
It was a peaceful and calm day on the seas. The sun was shining high in the sky. The seagulls were flying overhead. However, there was a huge whirlpool in the ocean. Suddenly, a giant ship passed by and two sailors on the starboard side shivered at the sight of the whirlpool. Then the two of them heard a thump and looked down. Floating in the water was a barrel. The two men blinked and looked at each other in confusion. Brushing it off, the two men tried to hoist the barrel out of the water and onto the ship. Another sailor was on the mast, looking around until he spotted something. Another ship heading towards theirs. A pirate ship. It was pink with hearts on its sails. The ship fired its cannons at the other ship. "Alarm the captain! The ship's under attack!" shouted the sailor on the mast. The two men had managed to pull the barrel onto the ship. Heard the sailor, dropped the barrel onto the deck, which rolled away. The sailors ran into the ship's ballroom. "The ship's under attack by pirates!" exclaimed the sailors. Everyone screamed and started panicking and running around like a chicken with its head cut off. However, one girl was not afraid. She had short, light orange hair and light brown eyes. As soon as she heard that there was another ship, she darted out of the room. Suddenly, the doors busted open as it was kicked and the ballroom was filled with bloodthirsty, vicious-looking pirates. They all smirked at the scared passengers. "Hey, don't worry. We ain't gonna kill ya. Though, we will take all the rare stuff you got here," snickered one of the pirates. "Anyone who tries to resist will be spending the rest of their lives at the bottom of the ocean," a new voice shouted. A large heavy-set woman walked into the room. She had greasy-looking hair and beady narrow eyes. On her head was a white cowgirl hat and was wielding a spiked mace in her hand. Everyone trembled, not moving a muscle. The orange-haired girl watched from afar while she hid, with a light smile on her face. She tore off her dress and was now wearing a blue and white striped shirt with black shorts and a bandana tied to her head. She ran off the ship and jumped onto the other one, while everyone was distracted. During the chaos, the barrel had rolled itself into the kitchen. The ship's kitchen doors opened and a small timid-looking boy walked into the room. He had light pink hair and gray eyes and was wearing blue glasses and a cabin boy's uniform. "Is anyone here?" the boy asked. He received no response. He sighed and started looking around the kitchen. Then he spotted a barrel. "Wow, that's the biggest barrel I ever seen," he said to himself as he started to push the barrel. Suddenly, three pirates blocked his way as he did as they walked into the kitchen. "Hey, Kobe. You're not hiding from us, are ya?" one of the pirates asked. Kobe began to sputter. His whole body began to tremble, terrified. "No way. GG guys. I was just talking to this barrel I found back to the ship. It looks like it's full of sake." The three pirates smirked. "Sake, huh? Why don't we inspect it to make sure? Are you with me, boys?" one of the pirates asked as he took the barrel. "But Lady Alvida will kill us," shouted Kobe. The other pirates smirked. "We won't be killed as long as you keep your trap shut. Now quiet," snapped one of the pirates. Kobe trembled. The biggest pirate cracked his knuckles. "Hold on, boys. Let me open this the old-fashioned way," he said as he raised his fist and threw them down onto the barrel. "I slept SOOOGRREATTT. Suddenly, the barrel's lid popped open as someone busted out of it and shot out, colliding his fist with the bigger pirate's face, knocking him out. The other two pirates and Kobe gasped as their mouths dropped as they gaped at the boy in the barrel. The boy looked like he was 17. He had short black hair, light tan skin, and small beady onyx black eyes. Under his left eye was a small scar. He wore a red vest with a light blue shorts which reached his knees, straw sandals, and resting on his head was a straw hat. He blinked before he looked around at his surroundings. "Who's he?" he asked as he saw the pirate he knocked out on the floor. He looked and also saw the other two pirates and Kobe. "Who the hell are you guys?" he asked. "Who the hell are you?" shouted the other two pirates, angrily. The boy stepped out of the barrel. "Your friend will catch a cold if he's sleeping like that," he said. "You're the one who knocked him out," shouted the other two pirates. One of them pulled out his sword. "Hold on. Are you playing with us, when you know we're vicious pirates?" he demanded. "I'm starved. Is there any food on this ship?" the boy asked Kobe, ignoring the other pirates. "I'm talking to you, brat," shouted the pirate as he and the other one raised their swords and slashed at the boy. Crack! Somehow, their swords broke in two. The two pirates stumbled back as they gaped in shock seeing that the boy was unharmed. "What's wrong with you guys?" the boy asked. Who are you? What are you?" asked the pirates as they stared at the boy in horror. The boy brushed off the dirt off of his vest and smiled. "Me? Oh, my name is Money D. Luffy. Hi," said Luffy as he grinned widely, showing his teeth. The pirates screamed in fear as they grabbed their knocked-out comrade and ran out of the room, terrified. What just happened?" asked Kobe. Luffy shrugged his shoulders. "Beats me," he said. Kobe stood up. "Quick, you gotta run. If they come back with their buddies, then you'll be killed on the spot," he shouted. Luffy smiled. "I don't care. Where's the food? I'm hungry," he said. "How can you not care? There are hundreds of them and they're willing to kill anybody," shouted Kobe. Luffy wasn't listening. His nose twitched as he smelled a wonderful scent. He tried to walk towards the source while Kobe was trying to hold him back. Luffy made it to the cellar and his eyes lit up. "Food, hooray!" Luffy cheered. He ran around the room with his mouth drooling. Kobe looked around making sure no one was coming as Luffy began to dig into a crate full of apples. Hi, my name is Kobe. You're Luffy, right? It was really cool what you did back there," said Kobe as Luffy wolfed down the apples. "These are so awesome," Luffy said as he wiped off the juice from his lips. He smiled. "I bet she would love some. I'd better save some for later," he thought as he stashed some in the pockets of his vest. "So, are we on a pirate ship or what?" asked Luffy as he continued to eat. "No, we are on a passenger ship that's being raided by pirates. Pirates under control of Lady Alvida," Kobe said. "Ah, I don't care about that. I just want to know if there are any little boats on this ship," Luffy said. "I think there might be a few," Kobe said. "Great, I need a new one cause my old one got sucked in by some whirlpool," Luffy said. "You mean that huge one outside, and you survived?" Kobe asked. Luffy smiled. "Yep. You can say it was a great way to wake up after a long nap," he laughed. Kobe smiled timidly. "So are you a pirate or a passenger?" Luffy asked. Kobe looked down. "Neither. I'm just some cabin boy. I was forced to be one because Lady Alvida's pirates captured me. They found out I was a great navigator, so they let me live. That was 2 years ago," he confessed, sadly. Luffy stopped eating. "You're pretty stupid, you know that?" he asked bluntly. Kobe sunk his head. "Gee, thanks for your honesty," he said, sarcastically. "If you don't like it here so much, then leave," said Luffy. Kobe shook his head. "No way. There's no way I can do that. I can't," he yelled. Luffy smiled. "Ha! You're stupid and cowardly. I hate people like you," he joked. Kobe sulked, then he smiled weakly. "Hey, you're right. If I had any courage, I could sail away in a barrel and be free. I could live out my dream," he said. Luffy was quiet. "Oh, what about you, Luffy? What's the thing that drove you to sail on the seas?" asked Kobe. Luffy grinned. "I'm gonna be king of the pirates," he exclaimed. Kobe's mouth drew serious. He asked quietly with disbelief. "Yep. You heard me," Luffy said, smiling. But that would mean you're a pirate too," said Kobe. "That's right," said Luffy. "Your crew?" asked Kobe. Luffy shook his head. "I don't have one yet, well, except for one." Suddenly, the door slammed open and the two looked to see a girl standing there, sopping wet from head to toe as her clothes were completely drenched. Kobe had to do a double take as his eyes darted back and forth at Luffy then back towards the girl. He saw that the girl was identical to Luffy. A twin in fact. The only thing that was different was that she had long black hair, which reached the middle of her back. Her skin was a lighter tone to her brother. It was a sickly pale white, which looked like she didn't go outside much. She was wearing a blue shirt with short sleeves and brown pants which reached down to her ankles and black sandals. What really drew his attention was that she also had shimmering sea foam green eyes, instead dark black, like Luffy's. Then the girl narrowed her eyes as she glared at Luffy. She began to stalk over to them. "Aya! You made it!" Luffy shouted happily. "Idiot!" Aya smacked Luffy hard on the back of his head with her fist. Kobe immediately backed away from the two, watching in fear. Aya grabbed Luffy by his shirt and began shaking him violently like a rag doll. "What were you thinking? Do you have any idea how worried I was? Do you have any idea what I had to go through to get here? You're alive, aren't y'all?" Luffy groaned. Aya repeatedly smacked him. "I had to swim across with sea-infested sharks, nearly drowned in the whirlpool, and almost died in a barrage of gunfire. All because of your stupidity," she screamed. "Love you too, sis," Luffy smiled and laughed. His face was now swollen and beaten up. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an apple, holding it to Aya's face. "Want one?" asked Luffy. Aya blinked as she stared at the apple. She felt her stomach growl at the sight of it. Aya rolled her eyes and sighed. She snatched the apple from his hand and dropped Luffy as she let go of his shirt. He slumped to the floor, rubbing his head. "This doesn't mean I'm letting you off easy," Aya murmured as she took a bite of the apple. "You're still in the doghouse." Luffy smiled. Then the girl noticed Kobe cowering in the corner. "And who the hell are you?" Aya asked. Kobe jumped when she spoke to him. "See Kobe," Kobe sputtered. "Who are you?" "I'm Aya. I'm this idiot's sister," Aya said as she jerked her thumb at Luffy. "I'm gonna be queen of the pirates." "Q queen," Kobe sputtered. "Geez, what a wimp," Aya said as she finished her apple and tossed the core away. "So, you two are gonna be king and queen of the pirates. You're talking about gaining the treasure of fame, wealth, and power. The treasure you want is the One Piece," Kobe shouted. Luffy smiled. "Yeah, you've got it all right," Luffy said. "But practically all the pirates in the world are looking for that treasure," Kobe yelled. "Yeah, so?" Aya asked, shrugging. "No way? There's no way you could survive them. They're ruthless and mean and they'll kill you right where you OWW." Kobe shouted as Aya and Luffy both punched him on the head. "Why did you hit me?" Kobe asked as he rubbed his head. "'Cause I felt like it," the two twins said together. "Ah well, I'm used to stuff like that. My shipmates bash me on the head all the time," Kobe mumbled. "It's not about if I can. I'm doing this because I want to," Luffy said. "My sister and I decided long ago that we wanted to be king and queen of the pirates. If we have to die fighting for that, then we die," said Luffy as he placed his hat on his head. Kobe stood frozen in his spot. "Well, I'm off. Now that my belly's full, I might as well get my new boat. I bet if I ask nice enough, they'll give me it," Luffy said as he and his sister began to walk out of the room. "I never thought about it like that. If I had that much courage, then do you think I could do it too?" asked Kobe. Luffy and Aya turned to look at him. "Do what?" asked Aya. Do you think I could ever join the Marines?" asked Kobe. Luffy tilted his head. "The Marines?" he asked. "Why yeah, catching bad guys is the only thing I ever wanted to do. It's been my dream ever since I was a child. Do you think I could do it?" asked Kobe. Luffy smiled and shrugged. "I don't know. Do what you want to do," he said. Kobe nodded. "Okay. I will then. I won't be a cabin boy for the rest of my life. I'll leave and then become a Marine and then I can capture Alvida," he shouted. Suddenly, the room started to shake, then the ceiling came crashing down. As the dust settled, it was revealed to be Alvida. "Who is it you're going to capture, Kobe? You really think that these pieces of crap are going to help you?" roared Alvida. Kobe quivered at the sight of her. Alvida looked up and saw Luffy and Aya. "My guess is you're not Zoro, the pirate hunter, aren't you?" she asked Luffy. "Zoro?" Luffy asked, tilting his head, blinking. "Who's he?" Aya asked. "Kobe. Who is the most beautiful of all the seas?" demanded Alvida. Kobe flinched and nervously looked around. Aya leaned and whispered to Luffy, "She's kidding, right?" she asked. "WWW well, hey, Kobe, who's the old hag?" Luffy asked. A dead silence filled the room with Alvida's and Kobe's mouth dropped open. Aya was laughing. Alvida grinded her teeth as many veins appeared, pulsing on her face. "Don't you ever think before you speak?" asked Aya, still laughing as she tried to catch her breath. "What?" Luffy asked as he shrugged his shoulders. "She's huge, this lady's a bloated whale." Aya lost it and keeled over in laughter. "Luffy, shut up," Kobe shouted. "You little rat," shouted Alvida. She brings her mace down on top of Luffy, narrowly missing him as he dodged it. Luffy grabbed Aya's wrist and Kobe's shoulder and jumped out of the cellar and onto the deck. He landed on his feet and smirked at Alvida's crew. Several men charged at them. Aya pushed Kobe away as a pirate came at her with a sword. She dodged out of the way as she stepped to the side and the sword sliced in the air between her and Kobe, missing them. Kobe stared in wide eyes, with his knees shaking. Aya quickly kneed the pirate in the gut and he fell down and she kicked him on the back of his head, knocking him out. Kobe scurried away as the pirate fell at his feet. Several pirates charged at Luffy but he managed to evade them. A pirate was sneaking up from behind, but Luffy dodged out of the way. "How rude. Attacking from behind is cheating," Luffy said. He turned and saw more pirates glaring at him, with large swords. He blinked and started running. "Why is everyone ganging up on me?" he shouted as the pirates were right behind him, chasing after him. Then Luffy grabbed onto a post and continued running. His arm began to stretch as he did. The pirates stopped, and watched in confusion, then saw Luffy coming back towards them as he slingshot himself. They tried to run away but it was already too late. Luffy smirked. "Gum Gum Rocket," he shouted as he charged through the men. All of them were knocked out from the blow as they fell to the floor one by one. Alvida and Kobe stared in shock and awe. Aya smiled. Luffy smiled and fixed his hat. Luffy, what are you?" asked Kobe. Luffy smiled and pulled on the corners of his lips and stretched them. "I'm a rubber man," he said. Kobe stared at him with disbelief while Alvida jumped onto the deck, shaking the boat. Kobe trembled and he ran behind Luffy and Aya. Alvida glared at the two of them. "So, you've eaten one of the legendary devil fruit, haven't you?" she asked. Luffy smiled and nodded. "Yeah, it was the Gum Gum one," he said. "Ah, I've heard rumors that they existed. But I never seen evidence of them until today. You're very skilled for just a young man. Tell me, are you a bounty hunter or a marine?" asked Alvida. "We're pirates," said Aya. "Pirates, by yourselves? How stupid are you?" taunted Alvida. "Who are you calling stupid?" Fadings on Alvida's face looked like they were about to pop as she glared at the girl, angrily. "It's just us for now. But we're going to start building up a crew. Maybe 10 or more guys in a week or two." "I don't know yet," Luffy said, shrugging. "Ha, tell me, if we're both pirates, and we're not under the same flag," Alvida held up her mace. "That makes us both enemies, correct?" she asked. "Luffy, Aya," Kobe whispered. Luffy winked at him. Kobe blinked before remembering Luffy's words. "My sister and I decided long ago that we wanted to become king and queen of the pirates. If we have to die fighting for that, though we die." "Well, Kobe, what is it you wanted to say?" Alvida asked, smugly. Kobe blinked, then he glared at Alvida. "You're the biggest and ugliest pirate of all the seas," he shouted. Silence filled the whole ship as Alvida and her crew jaws dropped. Alvida looked even more madder than she did before. Luffy threw his head back laughing, really hard. Aya covered her mouth and snickered. "What did you say?" growled Alvida. "I'm leaving and joining the Marines, and I'm going to lock away dirty pirates like you," shouted Kobe. "Do you have any idea what you're saying to me?" Alvida growled. "I know what I said and I'll do what I want. I'll go to the Marines and I'll join them. And as soon as I do that, I'm gonna catch your fat ass first," shouted Kobe. Alvida roared in anger and thrusted her mace at Kobe. Kobe froze in his spot. "Spoken like a true Marine," shouted Luffy as he stood in front of Kobe. The mace came down on his head. Alvida gave a shocked look, seeing that Luffy was unharmed. Luffy grinned. "That won't work. I'm made of rubber," he said in a sing-song voice. He threw his fist back and it stretched all the way into the sky. "Gum Gum." Luffy started as his fist came back. "Pistol," shouted Luffy as his fist connected in Alvida's gut as he punched her, sending her flying. Aya smiled seeing Alvida sail off in the sky, drifting farther away, Kobe and the crew stood with a dumbfounded look on their faces. Hey! The crew flinched when Luffy turned to them. Go and find a boat and give it to Kobe. He's leaving the ship and joining the Marines. Don't stop him, alright? He asked. Why yes. The crew stuttered. Kobe blinked before smiling. Thanks, Luffy, he stuttered. Luffy smiled. Suddenly, there were cannonballs being fired at the ship, landing near it. The ship tilted side to side as the rough waves hit against it. Luffy, Aya and Kobe looked and saw a marine ship a few feet away. Those are marine boats, said Kobe. Sweet, what luck, huh? Let's say our hellos, said Luffy as he ran towards to where a group of boats were. Luffy, we'll get arrested on the spot. Think about it first, Aya scolded. Wait up. We'll get captured if they spot us, shouted Kobe as he followed after her. The three jumped into the boat and the boat went crashing into the water. Aya and Kobe nearly fell overboard as it did. Kobe clinged to Aya and she tried to get him off of her. As the two fought, Luffy noticed another boat next to theirs and saw the orange-hair girl. Their eyes met each other briefly before the girl started paddling away, leaving them. Luffy, Aya and Kobe were now sailing in the middle of the ocean. I can't believe we managed to escape, Kobe said as he looked at the water. Yeah, what fun, Luffy exclaimed as he laughed. Hey, you two. If you're searching for the elusive One Piece, that means you're heading for the Grand Line, right? Kobe asked. The two nodded. You know, a lot of people call that place the Pirates' Graveyard, Kobe said grimly. Yep. That's why we need a really strong crew. You guys were talking about some pirate hunter, right? What's he like? Asked Luffy. Yeah, who is he? Aya asked. Oh, you mean Roronoa Zoro? Last time I heard, he was held prisoner at some marine base, Kobe said. Luffy looked a little disappointed. Oh, so a weakling, right? He asked. Kobe stood up and shook his head. No way. Roronoa Zoro is as vicious and violent as a demon and 3 times as horrifying. Wait. Why are you asking about him anyway? Kobe asked. Luffy made a grin. I guess if he's strong as you say, he could be good enough to join my crew, he said. Yeah, he sounds like a badass, Aya said, agreeing. Kobe nearly fell out of the boat. You're kidding, right? He could kill you two with one strike, he said. Luffy shrugged. You never know. He might jump at the chance to join us, Luffy said. No way. He's one of the most wanted men ever. He's big and mean in OWW, shouted Kobe as the two twins hit him on the head again. Why'd you hit me? 'Cause we felt like it, the two twins said together. Aya smirked. Ow! Luffy groaned, as he rubbed his arm as Aya punched him hard. Jinx! She exclaimed. While Luffy and Kobe stared at the ocean, Aya leaned back and reached into pocket and pulled out a necklace with a round gold coin attached to it. She held up into the sky staring at it, twirling with her fingers. The coin had a skull in the center of it. I wonder what the One Piece is, she thought as she stared at the coin. What's that? A voice called out to her. Aya looked to see Kobe looking at the coin. She sat up showing it to him. I don't know. It's something I had ever since I was a baby, Aya said. Kobe took it looking over the details of the coin, tracing his finger of the rough and detailed edges. It's beautiful, Kobe said as he stared. Yeah, it's great, Aya said sarcastically. Can I have it back? She asked holding her hand out. I'd give it back if I were you. Luffy laughed. The last time I tried to look at it and wouldn't give it back. Aya tried to break my arm. Kobe yelped and immediately gave Aya back the coin. She took it and put it back into her pocket. The three of them sailed off heading towards the marine base. What a day, it's gorgeous, exclaimed Luffy. He, Aya, and Kobe have been sailing for some time and the weather was steady and clear. Kobe nodded his head in agreement. Yeah. As long as the weather goes this good and we take this path, we'll be at the marine base in no time, he said. Luffy turned to him with his eyes sparkling with excitement. You mean it, hot dog? You're the best, Kobe. How do you even know? Asked Luffy. I know this stuff because all sailors must know their ways of the seas, said Kobe. Luffy turned back to the ocean and laughed. That's what I've always been telling him, but my big brother always rush into things with thinking. By the way, how are we going to get into a marine base without getting caught, Luffy? We're pirates, remember? Said Aya. Luffy didn't answer. ANNDD, he's not listening. I don't see what's to be so perky right now, Luffy. Besides, at the marine base, Kobe said with a frightened look on his face. They're holding the great pirate hunter, Roronoa Zoro. This is the man who diced up his bounties like an animal bent on carnage. A bloodthirsty beast. He's been called nothing less than a living breathing demon in human form. Like he was sent straight from hell. All of the more reason to check him out, said Aya. Alright, we're here, the marine base city, yelled Luffy, excitedly as the boat pulled up to the port to a small island with many buildings. They docked it and Kobe tied up the boat to a post. He, Luffy, and Aya walked around, exploring the city. Luffy's head started darting around wildly at all the booths and people. Aya was looking around, keeping a lookout, while Kobe looked uncomfortable. Luffy, seriously, you two are out of your mind if you think this guy is gonna want to join your crew, said Kobe. I haven't made up my mind yet. I first gotta see if he's a good guy, Luffy said as he walked ahead. Plus, we need to see how tough he is, Aya added. He's imprisoned because he's obviously not, Kobe shouted as Luffy bought a pear and took a bite out of it. Hey, is that pirate hunter Zoro around here? He asked the shopkeeper. The lady who was selling the fruits and some other people jumped back in shock. They stared at Luffy with wide eyes as their bodies shook in fear, leaving the three, confused by what happened. Luffy blinked. Aya walked by him and whispered in Luffy's ear. Yeah, we shouldn't probably go around announcing out loud that we're looking for him, she said. Then she smacked Luffy on his head. Idiot. Maybe we shouldn't mention the name Zoro around here, Kobe whispered, suggestively. Luffy shrugged and the three began walking again. Aya felt like she was being watched. She saw some people giving her suspicious looks. Aya heard two men were whispering to each other. Do you think she's a witch? Asked one of the men. What are you whispering about? Shouted Aya, angrily. The two men jumped and trembled in fear. They ran away from her. Run, she'll put a curse on us, shouted one of the men as they ran. Aya rolled her eyes, following after Luffy and Kobe. Let's head to the base. You said you wanted to be a marine, right? Luffy asked. I do, Luffy, I'm just not that sure if I'm ready. From what I've heard, the man who runs the base is someone called Captain Morgan, said Kobe. Once again, the people jumped back when Kobe mentioned Morgan's name. Kobe and Luffy blinked. The three of them continued walking. Aya looked over her shoulder seeing the people still shaking in fear. Strange town, she mumbled under her breath. Ha ha. This town is such a weird place. Luffy laughed as the three continued walking. Kobe was lost in thought. That was strange. I understand why they're afraid of Zoro, him being a killer and all, but why did they get scared when first said the Marine captain's name? He asked. Maybe they did it for the fun of it, suggested Luffy. How does that make any sense? Asked Kobe. He's probably corrupted, Aya added. Kobe stopped in his tracks and glared at Aya. You take that back, he shouted. What? All I'm saying is that he's probably abusing his power, said Aya. The Marines don't do that, Kobe shouted. Aya smirked then leaned in toward Kobe's face then flicked her finger on his forehead. Face reality, kid, some people do that, she said. Especially the higher-ups. You shut your mouth right now, growled Kobe. Why, you wanna fight me? How cute, Aya laughed. Don't you touch me, Kobe shouted. Aya took a step closer to him and he backed away. Why? Scared that I'll get my evil pirate cooties all over you, Aya taunted. Shut up, growled Kobe. Luffy let out a whistle. Wow, this must be the place, he said. The two stopped and looked to see a huge gate in front of them. It was the Marines' base. Kobe looked like he was going to cry. I made it. Thank you so much, Luffy, Aya. I can't believe we're going to have to go our own ways even though I find you as my best furry. Where's the foothold or something? Asked Luffy as he tried to climb over the stone wall. Get off of there, Luffy, or they'll see you and you'll get arrested, yelled Kobe. Aya sighed. What an idiot. Luffy blocked the sunlight with his hand as he scoured. Okay, so where's that demon? They're probably hiding him in an underground prison cell or something. They wouldn't just show him out in the... Found him, exclaimed Luffy. Kobe and Aya managed to climb up the wall and looked over to see a man far off in the distance, tied to a post. He was wearing a black bandana on his head, a white shirt and dark green pants and black boots. That's him, right, Kobe? Asked Luffy. Kobe trembled in fear. If we untie those ropes, he could just walk away, right? Asked Luffy. No way. If we do that, he'll just kill us all with one strike, shouted Kobe. Luffy grinned. Don't worry, me and my sis are really strong, so there's nothing to be afraid of, he said. You both have lost your marbles, shouted Kobe. Hey, you three, they hear a voice call out to them, roughly. Kobe flinched. Your eyesores. Get lost, muttered Zoro. Kobe yelped and grabbed Luffy's arm. Come on, let's just go, Luffy. There's no way a criminal like him would want to be on your crew, he yelled. Then, a ladder landed near Luffy and Aya looked and saw a little girl climbing up it. The little girl turned to the three and shushed them. Then she climbed over the wall, holding a small package in her hands. We gotta save her or else she'll be killed by the Marines or the demon himself, yelled Kobe. Neither Luffy or Aya made a move. They watched as the little girl ran over to Zoro and smiled at him. What do you want? Zoro asked. The little girl smiled. I thought you'd be getting hungry now, so I made you some rice balls, she said, unwrapping the package. You got a death wish, kid? Get lost, said Zoro. The girl held out 2 rice balls to him. But you haven't eaten in a long time, so here. I made them myself. It's my first try though, she said. Listen, kid. You're really starting to bug the living hell out of me, so why don't you just scram? Zoro threatened. But, do not make me kick your ass, little girl, get lost, yelled Zoro. Now, no one likes a bully, a loud annoying voice called out. Zoro glared as a man with 2 marine soldiers walked up. Roronoa Zoro, you seem to be handling the situation well, aren't you? Asked the man. Who's the other weird guy? Asked Luffy. Kobe sighed in relief. Thank God. He looks like he's with the Marines. At least we know the little girl will be safe, he said. Aya frowned as she stared at the man. She didn't like him, not one bit. I'm not so sure about that, said Aya. What do you mean? Asked Kobe. I don't like the looks of this guy, said Aya. The man took a rice ball from the girl. Yum. Some tasty rice balls, he said. That's not for you, cried the little girl. The man took a bite out of it. His face twisted with disgust. He spat out the rice ball and threw it to the ground along with the second one and stomped on it. No, stop that, please girl. You imbecile, you filled this rice ball with sugar. It's supposed to be salt, yelled the man as he stomped one last time, destroying the rice balls. But, the little girl was about to cry. I worked so hard to make those. Too bad, Brad. Dispose of her immediately or my father will have your heads, the man commanded. Aya growled as her hands gripped the scaffolding in anger. She was about to move, but Luffy grabbed her shoulder so she wouldn't jump over the wall. One of the soldiers hesitantly grabbed the little girl. I'm sorry. Just curl into a ball, okay? Asked the man as he threw the girl. The little girl cried as she was thrown over the wall. Luffy, catch her, shouted Aya. Luffy quickly stretched his arms out and grabbed the little girl. The two landed on the ground roughly. Luffy's hat fell off as well. Thanks, mister, said the little girl. Luffy blinked before smiling. No problem, he said. Kobe and Aya ran over to the two. Luffy, are you guys okay? God, how can that man be so cruel? Asked Kobe as he checked over the little girl to see any signs of injury. I said it once, kid, said Aya. Corruption. You shut up, you don't know what you're talking about, growled Kobe. Man, you're stubborn, shouted Aya. What's it going to take for you to get it through your thick head? Luffy picked his hat up as he stood up, ignoring the two who were scrabbling with each other. Damn you, muttered Zoro under his breath. He glared at the snickering man. Trying to keep your composure, Roronoa? You really want to get out of here, don't you? Asked the man. That's right. I'll make through the month. Just you watch, muttered Zoro. The man began snorting as he howled in laughter. Yeah, right. Keep dreaming, Roronoa, snorted the man as he and his men walked away. Kobe sighed in relief seeing that the girl was unharmed. Okay, you look fine. How can that man be so heartless? Kobe asked himself. He and Aya looked around and saw that Luffy was nowhere to be seen. What the? Now where'd he go? He asked. Zoro sighed as he closed his eyes, trying to gather up his thoughts. For some reason, he felt like he was being watched. He opened his eyes and saw a boy wearing a straw hat standing in front of him. Zoro blinked. Luffy looked at him with a calm look on his face. "So, I hear you're a bad guy," he said. "You're still here?" asked Zoro, bored. "You're tied up here for the whole world to see, and for what? Nothing. Are you sure as strong as they say?" asked Luffy. "Mind your own business, kid," muttered Zoro. Luffy sighed and walked closer to Zoro. "If I were you, I'd probably starve in 3 days," Luffy joked. Zoro smirked. "Hey, I have more spirit than you know. Which is how I'll survive this ordeal. This, I swear," he said, confidently. Luffy grinned. "Huh, you're such a weirdo," he joked as he began to walk away. "Wait, hold on," Zoro called out. Luffy stopped. Zoro looked down at his feet. "Could you pick that up for me?" he asked, seeing the dirty mud-covered rice ball on the ground. Luffy blinked and picked it up. "You want to eat this? But it looks ruined already and mostly a ball of mud." "Shut up and give it to me, kid," yelled Zoro. Shrugging, Luffy walked up to Zoro and tossed the rice ball into the swordsman's mouth. It tasted horrible, but at least it was better than starving to death. Zoro coughed as he felt some dirt in his mouth. Luffy giggled. "You should have listened to me," said Luffy in a giggling tone. "No, it was good. Tell that kid that I said thanks," muttered Zoro. Luffy walked away, tilting his straw hat. Luffy, Aya and Kobe walked with the little girl, which they discovered that her name was Rika. "You mean it? He said that?" asked the little girl. "Yep. And ate it all up," said Luffy, smiling. Rika beamed as she smiled happily. Kobe placed a finger on his chin, thinking, "Huh, I'm starting wonder if Roronoa Zoro is as bad as everyone says," he said. Rika shook her head. "No way. Big brother Zoro is a good guy, after all." The little girl looked to the ground. "He saved this town," she whispered. "What do you mean?" asked Aya. Rika twiddled her thumbs. "It's all Helmeppo's fault. He's the son of Captain Morgan. 3 weeks ago, he brought a vicious wolf into town and it terrified the living daylights out of everyone. But, then, Zoro came and he nearly finished off Helmeppo. That big meanie threatened to kill me and my mom. But, he said that if Zoro could survive being tied up to that big post for a month, then he could be let go. But, Helmeppo keeps cheating by trying to break Zoro's spirit. It's not fair," cried Rika as she began to sob. Suddenly, there was a loud crash that came from the little girl's family restaurant. The four ran towards the building. It was Helmeppo. He was throwing orders and terrorizing and giving death threats to everyone. Luffy and Aya clenched their fists as they watched in anger. Aya gritted her teeth as she glared at the man. "I am incredibly bored now and I'm trying to find something fun to do. I suppose I can just have Zoro executed." "Oh, wouldn't that be hysterical?" snorted the blonde as he threw his head back and laughed. Suddenly, a fist shot out and cracked Helmeppo right in the jaw as Aya punched him and his face slammed into a wall. Kobe's mouth dropped in horror while Luffy stared in silence at his sister. Helmeppo slumped on the floor as he glared up at Aya. She was breathing heavily and gritted her teeth as she seethed in rage, looking down at this disgusting excuse for a human being. "H, how dare you? Why you hit me?" exclaimed Helmeppo as his men tried to help him up. He gaped at her in shock, staring at her seafoam green eyes. "Why you witch? No, how dare you call yourself a marine? You disgusting piece of trash," said Aya as she glared at him. She raised her fist getting ready to punch him again, but Kobe grabbed her arm, holding Aya back. "Aya, stop it, what's wrong with you?" asked Kobe. "I'm teaching this essay lesson," said Aya. "This guy is a no-good piece of shit." "You little brat. Do you know who I am?" demanded Helmeppo. "I don't give a rat's ass who you are," shouted Aya. "You'll give a damn when your head hangs from the gallows," yelled Helmeppo. "I'd like to see you try, punk," shouted Aya. "Aya, stop it, why are you trying to pick a fight with this guy?" shouted Kobe. "Well, I guess that settles it," said Luffy. Kobe turns to look at him, while holding Aya back. "I've made up my mind, Kobe. Today, Zoro joins my crew," said Luffy. "You're weak, Zoro. Nothing ever changes. Zoro's eyes shot open as bullets of sweat ran down his face. Zoro took calm breaths trying to steady his heart. I can't die here. I made a promise, thought the swordsman. Then a shadow stood over him. Zoro looked up to see Luffy again. You again? Don't you have things to do? Asked Zoro, irritated. I'll untie you. As long as you promise to join my crew, said Luffy as he took a step towards the swordsman. You're what? Asked Zoro. Me and my sister are running a pirate crew and we need people to join, said Luffy. Zoro smirked. No way. As if I'd stoop to that level. Joining a pirate crew is the most stupidest thing I've ever heard. Screw that business, he said, turning his head away. What's wrong with being a pirate? Asked Luffy. They're lowlifes. Joining them is the last thing I'd ever do, said Zoro. Luffy smiled. Come on. Everyone knows that you're some kind of killer with a crave of bloodlust, he said. People could say what they want to say, but there is not a single thing in my life I regret. I'll make through this month and I'll accomplish what I desire, said Zoro. Luffy blinked. That's cool, but I still decided that you're joining my crew, he said, grinning. What? You can't do that, Zoro yelled. Luffy grinned. I've heard that you're one of the best swordsmen out there, he said. I am. It's just that hell whatever that bastard's name is took my katana, said Zoro. Luffy winked. Well, I guess I'm gonna have to go get it then, he said. What? Your katana back, then you're joining my crew, said Luffy. You're really starting to piss me off, kid, yelled Zoro. Luffy giggled as he ran off. Hey, genius. You're going the wrong way, said Zoro. Luffy paused. Gum gum rocket, yelled Luffy as he flinged himself past Zoro. Zoro stared in disbelief. What the hell is this guy? He asked himself. Luffy hunched over, panting. Sheesh, where is that idiot that stole Zoro's swords? He asked himself. Then he heard several voices above him. Huh, wonder what's going on up there. Might as well check it out, said Luffy. He stretched his arms to the roof edge of the marine base. Gum gum rocket, he yelled as he flew up, but he was gaining too much speed. Too far, too far, too far, yelled Luffy as he flew higher. The soldiers on the roof looked up and saw Luffy as he grabbed onto the rope they were using to pull a statue. He breaks off a piece of the statue as he landed on the roof. The soldiers gaped in horror, gasping at Luffy. Luffy looked at the men, scratching his head. Whoops, sorry about that, he said, sheepishly. A man glared at him furiously. He was huge and had blonde hair and one of his hand was an axe. Seize him at once. I want to kill him myself, ordered the man. Sir, yes, sir, shouted the marine soldiers. That's him. He's friends with the witch who hit me, yelled Helmeppo. There you are, I've been looking for you everywhere, yelled Luffy. He grabbed Helmeppo in a chokehold, dragging him off inside the marine base. After him, shouted the marine captain. The marine soldiers chased after the Straw Hat pirate. Inside the base, Luffy dragged Helmeppo down the hallways. Helmeppo was crying in terror as he did. Hey, dude. Tell me where you're keeping Zoro's katana, said Luffy. Okay. I'll tell you, cried Helmeppo. Luffy stopped, listening. Okay, so where is it? He asked. Helmeppo pointed in a direction. In my room. We just passed it, he whimpered. Luffy sighed. Really? Dang. I guess we're gonna have to go back then, he said. Halt. Release Helmeppo at once. Luffy turned to see 3 marine soldiers aiming their rifles at him. No way. But you could shoot me if you want, said Luffy. He held Helmeppo in front of him like a shield. Helmeppo screamed. Luffy ran forward ramming into the soldiers with Helmeppo. Zoro felt the ropes that were binding him being tugged. He looked to see, Luffy, what are you doing here? I thought you were going to get my katana back, asked Zoro, confused. Then he realized his mistake. It wasn't Luffy, instead, it was a girl. Seafoam green eyes stared back into his. Zoro blushed. He hated to admit it, but he thought she was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Ah, hell, there's 2 of you, shouted Zoro, shocked. Aya giggled as she continued to try to untie the ropes. That was my brother, said Aya. I'm here to get you out of here. Kobe, get your ass over here. Now, Kobe ran over and started to help with the ropes. Great, just what I needed, Zoro muttered under his breath. Another brat. Aya stopped what she was doing. She narrowed her eyes at Zoro. Don't ever compare me to my brother, said Aya, coldly. I'm nothing like him. Zoro froze. You had to get out of here, Zoro, said Kobe as he got a knot undone. Listen, you two. That manic will kill you when he finds you both helping me, said Zoro. I don't care. I just can't see the Marine's name being treated like this. The Marines should be honorable, said Kobe. I can take care of myself. But, thank you for caring, said Aya as she smiled. Zoro blushed, then he shook his head. Look, I can't leave. I'll be out in 10 days and… Actually, they were planning on killing you tomorrow. Aya interrupted. Zoro paused. What? Asked Zoro in disbelief. Helmeppo was not planning on holding his promise to you. He planned on killing you from the start. Which made Aya and Luffy really angry. Aya even hit him for it. Kobe explained as he got a few of the knots undone. Yeah, and now the Marines are dead serious on catching the two. Don't worry, I'm not asking you to be a pirate. I just hope you help them. You three are incredibly strong. And you can save each other from a tragic fate, said Kobe. Zoro was silent. End of the line, shouted a voice. Kobe and Aya froze, then turned to see a tall, heavy-set man with a huge axe for a hand with 10 Marine soldiers. For the crime of treason against me, I sentence the three of you to execution, said the large man as his men readied their rifles. Kobe, Aya, and Zoro froze. Luffy, where are you? Thought Aya. Luffy entered a room and looked around. The room was pink, like a tornado barfed all over the place. Yep, this looks like yours, he said. His eyes spotted 3 katanas resting by the… 2 of the swords had black sheaths. Another sword stood out from the rest. It had a white sheath instead. Wait, there's 3 of them. Hey, weirdo, which one's Zoro's? Asked Luffy. Helmeppo was out like a light. Huh, must have fell asleep, said Luffy. He looked out the window and saw Kobe, Aya and Zoro being targeted with rifles by the Marines. Luffy gasped and quickly grabbed the 3 katanas. He ran over towards the window and opened it. Luffy clutched the windowsill and walked back, his arms stretching as he did. Gum gum rocket, shouted Luffy as he launched himself out of the window. Fire. The sound of gunshot echoed as they fired. Luffy landed in front of the 3. Everyone watched as the bullets made contact with his body. Luffy, no, shouted Kobe. Straw Hat, shouted Zoro. Their eyes widened as they saw the bullets pulling back Luffy's skin as it stretched. Grinning, Luffy stretched his body and the bullets rebounded back. See ya, yelled Luffy as a bullet nearly missed the Marine captain's head. Luffy threw his head back and laughed. That won't work on me. I told you I was strong, laughed Luffy while everyone, except Aya, stared at him with disbelief. Nice of you to show up at the last minute, said Aya as she tried to steady her heartbeat. She stood up and walked over to Luffy and hit him on the back of the head. What the hell were you doing? What took you so long? She shouted. Ouch! Why'd you hit me? Shouted Luffy as he held his head in pain. For being a dumbass, Aya shouted back. Who the hell are you? Asked Zoro. Luffy turned to him and winked. My name's Monkey D. Luffy, and I'm gonna be king of the pirates, he said, confidently. The shock fell from Zoro's face, and he rolled his eyes. King of the pirates? Yeah right. Do you have any idea what that means? He asked. King of the pirates means it sounds like. How can someone not know what it means? Besides, she has the same dream as mine. Aya's going to become queen. Luffy asked. Kobe nodded his head, grinning. Yeah, it sounds really nuts and impossible, but it really looks like they're serious. They have every intention on becoming the king and queen of the pirates. They have their minds set on obtaining the One Piece, said Kobe. Zoro raised his eyebrow. Luffy held out the 3 swords to Zoro. Here you go, just like I promised. I didn't know which one was yours, so I brought all of them, said Luffy. They're all mine, kid. I am a user of the 3 sword style, said Zoro. Luffy shrugged, still holding out the swords. Just take them already. Just know that if you fight with me, you'll become a government-defying villain. It's either that or you're left here, killed by the Marines, execution style, he said. Zoro smirked. What are you? The son of the devil? It doesn't matter. Because if I don't choose your side, I'll end up dead on the sticks. So let's see what you got, he said. Luffy pumped his fist in the air. Alright, you're finally joining my crew. This is the best day ever, he cheered. Would you quit fooling around and get these ropes off me? Shouted Zoro, annoyed. The entire time, the Marines stood in shock at what they had just witnessed. Nobody should have been able to survive that. Straw Hat's different from the rest of us. He must have eaten dairy devil fruit we've heard about, said Captain Morgan. The Marines gasped. Yes. The very fruit that gives the one who consumes it otherworldly powers. The power to breath fire. The power to cause tsunamis. Little is known about them. And, it seems that Straw Hat has just shown the power of his devil fruit. Well, Captain Morgan held his axe into the air. If we can't, shoot them. Charge! He yelled as he and his men charged at the fore. Clang! The sound of swords clashing were heard. The Marines stood frozen in fear as they saw that Zoro was released from his binds. He was now standing before them with 2 swords in his hands and 1 in his mouth. Make one move and you die, said Zoro as he glared at the soldiers. The soldiers froze in terror, not moving an inch. Today I'll officially become a criminal. Having fought the Marines, I'll become a pirate, that I can promise you. But I tell you this now, being a pirate won't stop me from fulfilling my ambition, said Zoro. What's that? Asked Aya. To be nothing less than the world's greatest swordsman. If something along the way stops me, then I'm making the 2 of you take full responsibility. After which you have to apologize to me, he said. Luffy smiled. The world's greatest swordsman. Sounds pretty cool. The king and queen of the pirates would have nothing less, said Luffy. Zoro nodded. Big talk coming from you. From this point on, whether I'm a criminal or not, I will let the name Zoro be known throughout the world, he said. Kill them at once, yelled Captain Morgan. The soldiers charged again. Better duck, said Luffy. Zoro quickly ducks down. Gum Gum Rocket, yelled Luffy. He knocked down the soldiers in one sweep. Zoro gasped. Just what are you? He asked. Luffy smiled. I'm the guy who ate the Gum Gum fruit, he said. Luffy rushed forward towards Captain Morgan. Bring those Marines right down to their knees, shouted Kobe. Luffy threw his arm back, punched Captain Morgan but hit his axe instead. You brat! You have no right to defy my superiority. First I'm the Marine Captain, S.M. Morgan, shouted Morgan. I'm Luffy. Nice to meet ya, said Luffy. Captain Morgan swung at him but Luffy jumped out of the way and into the air. The captain's axe slammed into the ground. Kobe's eyes widened in shock as his mouth dropped. While in the air, Luffy slammed his feet into Morgan's face, knocking the captain down. Luffy landed on his feet as Morgan started to get back up. The Marines watched in shock. You brat, growled Morgan. Die! Luffy rushed towards him and dodged out off the way as the captain swung at him. He kicked him in the face, knocking Morgan down to the ground. The soldiers froze. Luffy grabbed the captain's shirt and threw back his fist. You're going to pay for crushing Kobe's dream, shouted Luffy as he punched Morgan. Hey, stop, shouted Helmeppo. Luffy ignored him and continued punching Morgan. Hey, you idiot, I said stop, shouted Morgan. Oi, Straw Hat! Zoro called out. Luffy stopped and turned. Helmeppo had a gun pointed at Aya's head. Kobe didn't move a muscle. If you care about her life, don't move. I'll shoot if you do anything else, yelled Helmeppo. Aya glared at him. Luffy smiled. You really shouldn't have done that. Luffy giggled. She's not afraid to die. Helmeppo's eyes widened in shock. Suddenly, a hand gripped his wrist tightly and twisted it painfully. Helmeppo cried out in pain as he dropped the gun and it fell to the ground. Aya kneed the man behind his leg, knocking him down. Kobe watched in amazement. Zoro stood impressed. Luffy grinned. You witch! Helmeppo shouted in pain, clutching his broken wrist. I'll see you hanged for this. Shut up, said Aya. She threw back her fist and punched Helmeppo in the face. He fell to the ground, knocked out. Suddenly, Captain Morgan appeared behind Luffy, raising his axe. Luffy, behind you, warned Kobe. Captain Morgan was about to hit Luffy on the head, but Zoro rushed forward and sliced his sword straight through the captain. Captain Morgan let out a gasp, then he fell on his knees to the ground. Zoro landed behind him on his feet, perfectly. The captain didn't move at all. He was dead. The Marines cheered. "That weird. They seem pretty happy that he's dead," said Kobe. Luffy shrugged and smiled at Zoro. "Thanks for the help," he said. "Yeah, thanks," Aya said. Zoro smirked and nodded. "Just doing my job, Captain," he said. Luffy smiled and laughed. Zoro's smirk turned into a smile. Suddenly, his eyes began to close, then he fell backwards, collapsing on the ground. "Zoro, are you okay?" asked Kobe, panicking. Zoro opened his eyes and groaned. "Yeah, I'm just hungry," he said. Luffy blinked before throwing his head back, laughing. Everyone went back to Rika's family restaurant. There were people in there who were chattering very loudly and celebrating. "Man, I can't remember I had a last good meal like that. I was ready to eat my own bootstrap if I didn't get anything to eat," said Zoro in a joking tone. His bandana was now tied around his shoulder, revealing short sea green hair. Kobe, Rika and Rika's mother were laughing while Luffy was wolfing and gobbling down the food. "You finished already? There's a shock," said Rika's mother. "How could you have a bigger appetite than a guy who hasn't eaten in 3 weeks?" asked Zoro. Luffy shrugged. "My brother's always been like that. It's like his secret power or something," said Aya in a joking tone. "I'm just enjoying the food. Right, Kobe?" Luffy said. Kobe laughed. "Yeah, thanks for fixing this up for us by the way," said Kobe. Rika's mother smiled. "My pleasure. After all you did save the town," she said. "You two are the coolest people I've ever met," said Rika to Luffy and Aya. Luffy grinned. "Heck yeah we are. And we'll be even cooler when we're king and queen of the pirates and get the One Piece. Oh yeah, when we get the strongest crew in the seas," he said. "So, how many other crew members do you have besides me and her?" Zoro asked. Luffy took a sip from his orange juice. "Just you," he said. Zoro's smile fell. He pointed to himself. "Me? You know, that doesn't amount to a good enough crew," he said. Luffy shrugged. "So, we're pretty strong," he said. "Well, do you at least have a boat?" asked Zoro. Luffy pointed out the window to a small boat that was tied and docked to a post. Zoro fell off of his seat. "How did I get myself suckered into this?" he asked himself. "You two have got to be the worst pirates ever in history." "Hey, watch it," growled Aya. "Come on, it'll be loads of fun," said Luffy, smiling. Zoro rolled his eyes. "Say Luffy, where are you guys planning on going after you leave here?" asked Rika. Luffy grinned. "The Grand Line, of course," he said. Kobe coughed as he nearly choked on his juice. "No way. That's too dangerous," he shouted. Luffy tilted his head. "Why?" he asked. Kobe looked down. "As you probably know, that place is so dangerous that only one man was able to pass it. And that was the king of the pirates himself, Gold D. Roger. It is said that the Pirate King had placed his most valuable treasure, the One Piece, at this location. Many countless men had tried to obtain this treasure, but it led them all to the same terrible fate. There's a reason why that place is called a pirate's graveyard. No one had ever made it out there alive," said Kobe as he began to tremble. Luffy leaned back in his chair. "Hey, I'm not afraid. We're still going there anyway," he said. "I guess we have to live with it," said Aya. Kobe stood up from his chair. "No, you can't," he yelled. Zoro raised an eyebrow. "Why do you care? You're not planning on coming with us, are you?" he asked. Kobe shook his head. "No, but I still find Luffy and Aya as great friends, even though we haven't known each other for long. Right, guys?" asked Kobe. Luffy grinned. Aya smiled. "Of course. Even though we have to part ways, we'll always be friends," he said. Kobe smiled sadly. "When I was just a little kid, I never had any friends. None that would fight on my behalf either. Hardest to never fight for anything. But the three of you have taught me a lesson I could never learn on my own. You taught me how to fight for what I believe in. So I decided to make my dream a reality. I'm gonna join the Marines," he said, confidently. "Good for you," said Aya. "I'm glad you're sticking up for yourself. You follow your dream." Kobe blushed. Suddenly, the doors of the restaurant opened and some Marines walked in. Everyone froze in silence. "Hey, you," said one of the men, walking over. We heard that you are pirates, correct? Asked the man. Luffy nodded. No, said Aya. We're not pirates. Yep. You heard right, said Luffy. Luffy. Aya gritted her teeth with anger. The soldier fixed his cap. As we are grateful that you saved our town from that tyrant, we cannot allow to go freely. Therefore, your crew must leave town, immediately. We will not arrest you, he said. Aya stared at the marine soldier in shock. Come on, they saved our town. You're really going to kick them out? The townspeople argued. The marines were silent as they had their heads down, while the people continued and began to throw insults at them. Luffy shrugged and got up. Guess it's time to go. Thanks for the food, he said, bowing his head to Rika's mother. Yeah, thank you, said Aya. Hey, wait a second. You're leaving already? Asked Rika. Luffy nodded. Yeah, he said, lifting a bag of food the Rika's mother had prepared for the journey. He flinged it over his shoulder and started to walk out of the restaurant, with Aya following. Zoro followed after them with his katanas. And what about this guy? He with you too? Asked the marine, pointing to Kobe. Luffy stopped, he smirked. What I can tell you is what he's been doing up to this point, he said. Kobe's eyes widened. Luffy. You wouldn't, he thought. Yep. He used to be some fat lady's cabin boy for 2 years. He's such a dork and a complete loser. He's the weakest person I've ever. Damn you, yelled Kobe as he punched Luffy. Everyone gasped while Zoro smirked. Luffy smirked and threw his fist back and began to punch Kobe repeatedly. Zoro grabbed Luffy by his vest, stopping him. Kobe collapsed on the floor. That's enough, Luffy. Just let him fall. Let's go, he said. Luffy smirked again and nodded, following after Zoro and Aya. Luffy. That was on purpose. He did it so it wouldn't look like I was a pirate. It's not fair, again and again. I have always relied on Luffy for help. Well, no more, thought Kobe as he stood up. Sir, I'd like to be a marine. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Just allow me to join, yelled Kobe. The marine soldier gave him a questionable look. You don't know how many of my men have died in the hands of pirates. However, permission to join, granted, he said. Sir, Kobe yelled. That was some act you pulled back there. I wouldn't be surprised if they saw right through it, though, said Zoro as he, Luffy and Aya made their way to the docks. But did you have to be so hard on him? Aya laughed. Kobe could handle the rest himself. I have faith in him, Luffy said. Zoro shrugged his shoulders. Well, it's a real fitting way to leave this town with everyone hating us. Very pirate-like, he said. He, Luffy, and Aya climbed into the boat. Luffy giggled. Yeah, he said as he began to untie the boat. Luffy, Aya. The two twins turned to see Kobe, Rika, and her mother. Kobe saluted. Thank you. You have done more for me than anyone else in this world has, he said. Zoro smirked. That's new. I've never heard of a marine thanking a pirate before. That's one for the history books, he said. Luffy grinned and the three started to sail off. From the boat, Luffy waved. Bye. Hope to see you all soon, he called. Bye, Luffy, said Kobe. Rika waved back as well. Bye, big bro Luffy. Bye, big sis Aya. Bye, big brother, Zoro, she shouted. Sa all LLUT. Kobe turned to see the entire Marines from the base saluting to the pirates. See ya, called Luffy. The ship began to sail further and further away. You have good friends, said the Marine leader. Kobe felt his eyes burn as tears began to appear. But he wiped them away. No more. He was not going to be a wimp anymore. Kobe smiled. Yes, they are. And I know that somewhere, someday, somehow, we'll meet each other again. I can feel it. Luffy smiled as the sun began to set. All right. The adventure's finally coming to a beginning, he said. Zoro nodded. Yeah, and we'll probably face more of them pretty soon, he said. Luffy giggled, agreeing. Got that right, he said. Then Zoro frowned as a thought came to his mind. Say, is there any reason why you two want to be king and queen of the pirates? He asked. Luffy turned to him. Zoro saw the seriousness in his eyes. Luffy and Aya looked at each other, then back towards Zoro. We made a promise to someone a long time ago. That we would gather a crew and become king and queen of the pirates. And I, for one, Always make sure to keep my promises," said Luffy. Zoro smiled softly. Luffy turned back to the sunset. "Me too," added Aya. "I want to leave my mark on the world before I die." Zoro gave her a confused look. Then he saw Aya softly make a sad smile behind Luffy's back while her brother wasn't looking. He frowned in confusion, wondering what she had meant by that. "Okay. It's time to start the real fun. Let's head our course to the Grand Line," shouted Luffy as he stared over the horizon with excitement. "Su. Hungary," moaned Luffy as he stared into his reflection in the water. "When are we gonna reach land anyway?" asked Zoro. His arms rested behind his head as he watched the clouds drifted by in the sky. "Who knows? We've been sailing for a while by just the wind and the waves. Who knows when we'll reach land?" asked Luffy. He splashed the water a bit to cure himself of his boredom. Zoro raised his eyebrow and scowled. "Isn't the king and queen of the pirates supposed to know where we're going?" he asked, irritated. Luffy shrugged. "Not really. We've been sailing here and there," said Luffy. I had turned to Zoro. "What about you? Aren't you some expert bounty hunter who's been sailing for a long time?" she asked. Zoro blushed, seeing that Aya was leaning in a little too close. Zoro moved away from her. "I don't have any recollection of calling myself a bounty hunter," he said. He looked back to the sky. "I had to set out to the sea in search of one man. I couldn't return to my village. At that point, I had no choice but to go after pirates to make a living," he said. Aya nodded and looked back at the water. She smirked. "Yeah, I see. So you're just lost," she said in a teasing voice. A vein popped on Zoro's head. "You don't have to put it like that," he snapped, slamming his hand to the side of the boat. The boat rocked violently back and forth, knocking Luffy's hat off his head. His eyes widened. "Oh no. Not my Shanks hat," yelled Luffy. Zoro and Luffy quickly rushed after it. "This straw hat means more to me than you'll ever know. It's been with me in many fights. It's something so precious, I couldn't even give it to you, Luffy." 10 years ago, on an island there was a village called Fuchsia Village. In a bar there was a pirate crew who were celebrating and partying as they drank and feasted. At the counter of the bar, there were 3 people sitting on stools. One was a man with crimson red hair and eyes, black as night. On his left eye, he had a scar that had 3 slashes. Sitting beside him were 2 kids, a boy and a girl. The boy had short black hair and was wearing a white shirt with an anchor on it and blue shorts. It was Luffy. The girl had short hair as well, the same as her brother's, while the tips of her hair reached her chin. She was wearing a blue tank top and shorts, silently reading a book about pirates. It was Aya. Aya coughed as she covered her mouth with her hand until she broke into a coughing fit. The red-haired man gave the girl a worried look. "You sure you're feeling well? Maybe you should get some rest," he suggested. Aya shot the man a glare as she frowned at him. Luffy smiled. "Aya's tough. She's not going to let a cough keep her down," said Luffy. "I'm fine. Just leave me alone," said Aya. "It's just allergies, it's just a little settled in my chest, that's all." Aya frowned and continued reading, pressing her nose to the book while trying to ignore her brother's loud voice as he was talking with the red-haired man. "You gotta take me on your next adventure, Shanks. I want to be a pirate, just like you," said Luffy, happily. The man known as Shanks laughed. "Right, as if you could ever be a pirate," he chuckled. "Why couldn't I?" asked Luffy. A man with wavy blonde hair chuckled as well. "Look, Luffy. You might be a good swimmer and all, but you still wouldn't make it as a pirate," he said. Luffy turned to him, staring at him with an annoyed look. "But I'm an amazing fighter too. My punches are like pistols," he exclaimed, punching his fist in the air. "Are they now?" asked Shanks in a bored tone. "What's that supposed to mean?" yelled Luffy, angrily. Heh, he means you're too much like a kid, said a heavy-set man as he laughed. "He's right, you know, I've got boys much older than you," said Usopp. Usopp wobbled over to Aya and threw his arm around her shoulders. He was slightly drunk as Aya could smell the alcohol from his breath. "Hey, Aya. I've got a boy who's just around your age," he said. "Again, no thanks," said Aya as she looked away from him. Usopp gave her a disappointed look. "What, are you saying that you're too good for him?" he shouted. Aya had a disgusted look on her face and she scrunched up her nose in the air, sticking out her tongue. "Boys are gross," she said. Shanks laughed. "You say that now, Aya, but one day that might change," he said. Aya turned to him and glared. "Shut up," she growled. Luffy turned to Shanks and his crew angrily. "I'm not a kid, I'm a grown-up," shouted Luffy. "Ah, calm down, Luffy. Here, have some juice," said Shanks as he passed the boy a glass filled with orange juice. The anger on Luffy's face went away. "Wow, thanks, Shanks," he said happily, sipping on the juice. "I don't know one pirate who drinks juice." Shanks laughed as he slapped his hand on the counter. Aya rolled her eyes at her brother's stupidity. She saw it coming a mile away as soon as the pirate captain handed her brother the drink. Luffy blushed as his cheeks grew red with embarrassment. "Hey! You tricked me!" he yelled. His anger grew as Shanks and his crew laughed at him. "Stop laughing, that was a cheap shot." Suddenly, the door to the bar was kicked open and everyone went silent as a group of people walked in. "Excuse us," said a low, gruff voice. No one in the room moved a muscle, instead of Shanks, who was eating. "So these are what pass for pirates around these parts. Looks rather sad to me," said a man with long black hair as he walked in. He walked over to the counter, ignoring Shanks, Luffy and Aya. The bar's owner, Makino, walked over to him. "Welcome, gentlemen. What can I do for you?" she asked. The man smirked. "We're mountain bandits. But we didn't come here to tear your place apart. All we want is some sake." "I'd say, 10 barrels shall do," said the leader of the bandits. "I'm sorry, but we're already out of sake," said Makino. The man crossed his arms. "Really? That's interesting. Then what are these pirates drinking? It doesn't look like water," he said. "No, it just happens to be the last of what I have stocked." "I'm sorry," said Makino. Shanks wiped his mouth as he finished his meal. "My apologies, gentlemen. Looks like me and my friends drank the place dry. But, you can have this, if you want," he said as he held up an unopened bottle of sake to the bandit. "You can have this one. It hasn't even been opened," and the sound of glass shattering echoed in the room as the bandit broke the bottle with his fist over Shanks' head. Makino and Luffy gasped while Aya watched silently. Shanks was doused from the alcohol as it dripped from his clothes. "I'm a wanted man. There's an 8 million bounty on my head. So don't insult me with one lousy bottle of sake," said the bandit. Shanks ignored him and bent down to the floor. "Just great. Now the floor's all wet. You got a rag I can clean this up with, Makino?" asked Shanks as he got to his knees and started to pick up the glass shards from the floor. "Oh no, I'll crash." Everyone gasped as the bandit slammed Shanks into the counter as he punched him. The plate that was sitting on the counter shattered on top of the captain's head. The bandit pulled out his sword and made a huge scratch on the counter. "Since you like cleaning up messes so much, maybe you'll find this more fulfilling," said the bandit as he put his sword away. "A place with no sake is not worth our time. Let's go," he said as he and his crew walked out of the bar. "Captain, are you okay? Are you hurt?" asked Makino as she checked Shanks over. The captain waved his hand. "I don't have a problem in the world, Makino," he said with a laugh. His crew began to join him as they howled in laughter. Shanks threw his head back laughing as hard along with them. "What's wrong with you?" Everyone stopped as they stared at Luffy, who was standing on the stool, fuming in anger. He was breathing heavily and glaring at them. "What's so funny? You should have fought back, Shanks. It doesn't matter how strong they look or how many they were. You can't just laugh it off. You're not a man or a pirate." Roar him in reassuring smile. "Listen, Luffy. I know how you feel. But the guy just spilled some booze on me, nothing to get upset over," he said. Luffy's shoulders slumped as he pouted. "Whatever," he said. Luffy sat back in his stool and leaned over the counter, sulking. Then he noticed a small chest with a strange-looking fruit that was inside it. It was purple and round in shape with swirls on it. Luffy blinked. His mouth began to water, practically dripping from it. He leaned over the counter and took the fruit from the chest. Aya coughed. She glanced over at her brother, seeing him take the strange fruit from the case. Her eyes gave a questionable look as she stared at the fruit. She had never seen one like it before. "You really shouldn't eat that. You don't even know what that is," said Aya. Luffy didn't hear her and opened his mouth. Before she could stop him, Luffy had already chomped down on it and swallowed a bite. Aya slapped her forehead and groaned. Shanks fixed his straw hat, then turned to Luffy and saw him eating. He chuckled. "You know, Luffy, there are other ways to soothe your anger besides eating," said Shanks. "Shut up," yelled Luffy. Shanks noticed something in the boy's hands. His eyes widened. "Wait, what are you eating?" he asked. Luffy gulped the fruit down. Well, whoa," yelled Luffy as he was hung upside down in the air by Shanks. "You did not just eat the fruit from the box, did you? Spit it out, now," yelled Shanks as he shook him. Ow, ow. What are you doing? Why are you shaking?" Suddenly, Luffy's head stretched and smashed to the floor. Everyone was silent, staring in shock. Aya's eyes widened as her mouth dropped a bit. What's going on?" asked Luffy. He had a scared look on his face. "Luffy, you just ate the gum fruit. It's part of a group called the devil fruit. Eating any of them takes your ability to swim for the rest of their lives. That one caused your body to turn to rubber," yelled Shanks. Luffy's eyes widened. "No way," shouted Luffy. "It can't, you dumbass," shouted Shanks. Luffy gasped as he felt the wind get knocked out of him as he was slammed into the wall. "Hey, this is just sad. We were just enjoying a drink and you two came and disrupted it," said the leader of the bandits as he and his group snickered. Luffy glared dangerously at him. He glanced over to the side and saw Aya lying on the ground unconscious, completely beaten up, bloodied and bruised. "You better apologize. No one messes with Shanks' crew, and you're going to pay for what you did to Aya," he yelled. The bandit leader placed a foot on Luffy's head. Luffy bared his teeth at him angrily. "I don't think I insulted you directly," said the leader of the bandits. "You think wrong. You better apologize or else," shouted Luffy. "Big mouth, kid. That's what got you into this shit," said the leader of the bandits. Back at the bar, the bandits and the leader returned and were gulping down some sake. They were all joking and bad-talking about Shanks and his crew. "What losers. Calling themselves pirates. Pirates are just wimps. Nothing more. They're all talk, no action." "Shut up," a loud voice shouted. Then men turned to see Luffy, who was glaring at them angrily while Makino and Aya tried to hold him back. "Stop it, you don't know anything about Shanks and his crew. You better shut your damn mouths, bandits," he screamed. Luffy yelped as he felt the bandit press down on his head harder. "You should watch your mouth, kid. No one has ever insulted me and lived to tell the tale," said the leader as he pulled out his sword. Luffy charged at the bandit, punching him in the legs. The bandit laughed. He kicked Luffy away, slamming him into the wall. The bandit picked Luffy up and threw back his fist. Aya's eyes widened and she ran over to the two. She jumped up and grabbed onto the bandit's arm, dangling from it, and bit him. The bandit glared at Aya, dropping Luffy to the floor. He grabbed Aya by the throat, lifting her. "You brat! You bit me!" shouted the bandit. "Leave him alone!" shouted Aya. The bandit stopped as he saw Aya's necklace shining in his face. He smirked. The bandit grabbed the chain and ripped the necklace off from Aya's neck, holding it in his hand. "Give it back!" Aya shouted in anger. She bit the bandit's hand. The bandit's eyes widened as he yelped in pain. He growled and in a flash he kneed Aya in her chest. He dropped her and she fell to the floor. Aya gasped as she tried to breathe. Then she began coughing up blood as it splattered to the floor. Luffy, Makino, and some of the customers in the bar stared in horror as they saw Aya coughing violently. Aya's eyes widened in fear as she saw the small droplets of blood fell, landing on the wooden floor. Aya grabbed her chest in pain and looked up, glaring at the bandit. Her vision began to blur. "Damn you," said Aya, weakly. Luffy gasped as he saw her collapsed. "Aya!" Luffy shouted as he ran over to her. "You bastard," he growled as he glared at the bandit. The bandit laughed and started to walk away. "Take these two with us," he ordered his men. "I'm not done with them yet." They grabbed Luffy and Aya, carrying them to the village square. The mayor and Makino rushed over to them. "Stop," yelled the mayor as he and Makino ran in. "Let the children go. I beg you." The leader of the bandits turned to him. "Please, I have no idea what they've said and I don't intend to fight you for it. I'll even pay you. Just let them live, please," begged the mayor as he got to his knees. The leader of the bandits smirked and pulled out his sword. As if, "These brats have already got me pissed, and now they will pay for it with their deaths," he said. "You're the rotten one," yelled Luffy. The bandit inched the blade towards the boy's neck. "And you're a lost cause. Why these two are fighting for a punk ass like you and that runt is beyond me. You're just another piece of crap whose life will not be missed," said the bandit. "Please, no," cried the mayor and Makino. "Well, I was wondering why the bar was empty on such a fine day," a voice called out. Makino and the mayor gasped as they turned around to see Shanks and his crew behind them. "Well, what do ya know, it's the mountain bandits again," said Shanks as he tipped his hat. The leader of the bandits glared at him. Luffy's eyes widened, surprised to see him. "Pirates, where have you been? Scrubbing the latrines?" asked the leader of the bandits. "Luffy," said Shanks, ignoring the bandit. "Didn't you say that your punches were like pistols?" asked the captain in a teasing tone in his voice. "Shut your mouth," hissed Luffy. "Listen, pirates. I don't give a damn why you're here, so why don't you buzz off? Better yet, let's send you off in a casket," asked the leader of the bandits. One of his men aimed a pistol at Shanks' head. Shanks smirked. "Are you willing to risk your life?" asked Shanks. "Now that you've drawn your pistol, are you going to go use it?" Suddenly, a gunshot echoed as it fired. The bandit's body fell to the ground with a thud. Everyone gasped as one of Shanks' men fired, taking the bandit out in one shot, while munching a piece of meat from a turkey leg he was holding. "What did you fellas expect? We play nice. We're pirates, for crying out loud," asked one of Shanks' men. Shanks' hat suddenly fell as he lowered his head, as a shadow covered his face. "Listen, fellas. Whether I'm sprayed with alcohol or doused with food, hell, I can even take being spat in the face and I'll just laugh it off." But, suddenly, Shanks looked up with a glare in his eyes as his happy mannerism was gone. "If you ever hurt a friend of mine, or call them useless, that's where I draw the line, regardless of what they've done," said the captain. Luffy's eyes got teary. "Shanks," he whispered sadly. The bandit leader cackled. "So we're going to pay? Fine, let's see if you can survive. Men, kill them all," he commanded as his men charged at the group of pirates with swords in their hands. Just as they got closer, suddenly, all of them fell to the ground, dead. The leader of Thin shocked as he saw his men fall one by one, mysteriously. Then a sniper from Shanks' crew stepped up and smirked. "Really, is that all you got?" asked Usopp. "Wow," whispered Luffy in awe. He glanced over at Aya. He wished that she could see this as well. Hold on. These kids attacked us," yelled the leader of the bandits. Shanks smirked. "Didn't you say you had a bounty on your head?" he asked. The bandit's eyes widened in fear as he stared at the red-haired man before him. Then he pulled out a small bomb and threw it to the ground. It exploded and smoke came flying everywhere. "Luffy, Aya." As the smoke cleared, Shanks sighed in relief seeing Aya. But Luffy was nowhere to be seen. His eyes widened in horror. "Oh no, I let that guy take him. What are we gonna do?" he asked, panicking. His crew smirked seeing their captain in a panicked state. "Watch over Aya. I'm going after Luffy," shouted Shanks as he chased after the bandit. Luffy struggled as the bandit leader dangled him over the sea by the collar of his shirt. They were now in a boat in the middle of the ocean. The bandit laughed as he looked to the sky. "Hey, they'll never find me. Let me go. Damn it. I can't wait to see Shanks rip your head off with his bare hands," shouted Luffy as he squirmed to get out of the bandit's hold on him. The bandit smirked. "Have fun sleeping with the fishes, kid," said the bandit as he threw Luffy into the water. At the last second, Luffy grabbed the chain from Aya's necklace and ripped it off from the bandit's neck, splashing into the water as he did. "Hey, give me that," shouted the bandit leader. "No. It's my sister's, you can't have it, you bastard," Luffy shouted as he flailed and kicked in the water, trying to stay afloat. He felt his body trying to sink. The bandit was about to grab Luffy, but something rose from out of the water behind him. A huge shadow casted over him. The bandit froze and turned around to see a giant sea monster with razor-sharp teeth. In an instant, the monster ate him in one bite. Luffy gasped and struggled harder as the giant waves knocked him around. His eyes widened as he saw the sea monster swimming closer to him with its mouth open. "Shaw Ankes SS!" screamed Luffy. A loud snap was heard as the sea monster crashed into the water. Luffy looked up speechless as something wrapped around him, holding him tightly. "Shanks!" he whispered in disbelief. The sea monster breached surface again, getting ready to strike again. Its eyes widened in fear and it froze as it saw Shanks glaring at it. "Get lost!" growled Shanks. It immediately swam away, leaving the two alone. Shanks sighed in relief and smiled as he heard the sound of seagulls and waves crashing nearby as the danger was gone. "I'm in your debt, Luffy. Makino told us everything. On how the two of you defended us and in the name of the crew. How you were willing to fight," he said. Luffy was clutching his shirt tightly, sobbing uncontrollably. He hiccuped as more tears flowed and ran down his cheeks. Shanks smiled playfully. "Hey, come on. You can't cry. You're a grown-up now," he said. Luffy hiccuped. "But, Shanks, your arm, he screamed as he sobbed harder. It was a memory that would haunt him forever. Shanks' arm was gone. Blood dripped from the missing limb, staining the captain's shirt and into the water. He had saved Luffy, but at the cost of his arm. Shanks placed his other hand on top of Luffy's head, patting it reassuringly as the boy cried and trembled. He smiled sadly. "It's okay, Luffy, it's just an arm. I've got another one. The only thing that matters is that the two of you are safe," said the captain. Luffy clutched his shirt tighter and sobbed, burying his face in Shanks' chest. He couldn't protect his sister and he couldn't even protect himself. He felt useless. And because of it, the man that he had looked up to, his idol, lost his arm, sacrificing himself for him. Luffy silently promised himself that he would become stronger so nothing like this ever happens again. At the docks of the port, Shanks' crew hurried to load their ship with cargo of supplies they need. Standing by the ship were 3 people. "So, you're leaving?" asked Luffy, standing next to Shanks. The red-haired nodded, now wearing a black cape over his shoulders covering his missing arm. "Yeah, it was a nice extended vacation, but we have to part ways now. I bet you'll miss me, right?" asked the captain. Luffy nodded. "But this time will be different. I won't beg you to take me with you, because I'm gonna become a pirate all on my own," said Luffy. "Me too," said Aya, now covered in bandages from head to toe. Shanks stuck his tongue at them. "Blah. I wouldn't take you with me anyway. You two will never make it as a pirate," he said. Luffy glared at him. "No, I will make it as a pirate, someday. I'm gonna gather a crew that's way better than yours and I'll find the greatest treasure of all time. The One Piece. Then I'll be king of the pirates. I'll show you," he screamed at the top of his lungs. "And I'm gonna queen," shouted Aya. "I'm not going to let anyone beat me up again." "You think you'll surpass us, huh?" Shanks asked. Luffy frowned, then looked to the ground, glaring. Shanks smiled and took off his straw hat. "In that case, I'll leave this hat to you. It means more to me than everything in the world. So you better take care of it. Got it, Luffy?" asked the captain as he placed it on Luffy's head. The hat was a little too big for him and it fell as it nearly covered his eyes. Tears began to form as Luffy felt them sting in his eyes. Shanks and his crew boarded the ship and were now sailing away. The villagers waved as it sailed away. Luffy held his hand in Aya's as they watched the ship sail away. Aya felt him clenching it tightly and she looked to see that he had a serious look on his face. Aya bit her lower lip and looked down to the ground. "I am not going to be weak anymore," thought Aya as she promised herself, clutching her necklace she was wearing around her neck. Luffy clutched the hat tightly to his chest. Shanks' last words echoed their minds. "I want you to bring this hat back to me one day. In good condition. And only once you've become a great pirate. That's our promise." Luffy stared at the hat he was holding in his hands. Zoro raised an eyebrow. Aya gave him a concerned look. Luffy had been quiet for a while, which was unusual for him. "Hey, Luffy. You're gonna drop that again. I thought that it was important to you," said the swordsman. Luffy smiled and placed the hat on his head. "Yeah, it is, thanks," he said, giving Zoro a grin. Zoro groaned. "I am so hungry, it's killing me," he said. Aya heard her stomach growl and she groaned as well. Luffy blinked and looked to the sky. He noticed that something was flying overhead. It was a giant bird. Luffy smiled. Hey, let's eat that bird. Zoro rolled his head. How do we catch it? He asked. His eyes widened as he saw Luffy stretch his arm to the sail of the small ship. Gum gum rocket! Yelled Luffy. Luffy, we're in the middle of the ocean! Shouted Aya as she grabbed onto the Straw Hat's shirt. If you miss, I'm gonna have to save your ass. Just as she finished, in an instant, the two of them were launched into the sky. Zoro tilted his head when he noticed something. He noticed that Aya was screaming wildly. Then he realized what had happened. Luffy's head was stuck in the mouth of the birds and now the two of them were flying away farther away. Zoro started rowing faster, snarling and muttering under his breath, trying to follow after them. Then he sees a couple of pirates in the water and was heading straight towards them. I can't stop, you're going to have to climb on, he shouted. The pirates shouted but managed to climb themselves aboard the ship. Zoro looked up to the sky but didn't see the bird anymore. He growled as he sat down on the boat. He growled as he thought to himself. Just great. It had not only been a few days and now I have already lost both of them. Then he looked up and glared at the pirates that were now sitting in the boat.se sight of them. Row faster or else, he said, menacingly as threatened to pull out his swords. The bird carried Aya and Luffy to an island when suddenly a cannonball was fired. It hit the bird, dropping them. Luffy and Aya screamed. Now, they were falling, descending faster and faster towards the ground below them. This is all your fault, Luffy, shouted Aya. Luffy and Aya screamed as they fell from the sky. The blast from the cannon fire knocked Luffy and Aya away from each other. And now, they were rapidly plummeting to the ground. You idiot! This is all your fault, screamed Aya as she continued to fall. If I die from this, I'm going to haunt you for the rest of your life. Luffy screamed in fear as tears ran from his eyes. Aya, I'm sorry, cried Luffy. Don't haunt me. Tears and snot were now running down his face. The two twins were descending faster down on the opposite sides of the island. Aya was too far away for Luffy to stretch his arm. Aya! Shouted Luffy. Luffy! Shouted Aya. Luffy fell hard to the ground, landing on his head. Aya fell into a tree, crashing on every branch on the way down until she hit the ground. Aya closed her eyes as she fell unconscious. Luffy groaned as he sat up, rubbing his head. That was awesome, he exclaimed, jumping into the air and landed on his feet. But, as soon as he turned around, Luffy noticed that he wasn't alone. A group of pirates and a young girl with orange hair was staring at him. Luffy's eyes widened when he recognized her. It was the same girl he saw back on the boat. He stared back at her. She's kind of cute, thought Luffy to himself. The girl smiled. Hi, boss, thanks for coming to save me, she said in cheery voice. Luffy blinked and tilted his head, giving her a confused look. Huh? He asked. The girl giggled. Who are you? Asked Luffy. Then the girl suddenly turned and started running away. They're all yours, boss. Have fun, she shouted. Luffy scratched his head. Girls are weird, thought Luffy. He turned to the three men who were glaring at him. Say, do you know a good place where a guy like me can get something good to eat? He asked. The pirates glared at him, narrowing their eyes into slits and raised their swords. You're dead, kid. You should have let your crony fend for herself, snarled one of the pirates. Luffy placed a hand on his stomach. Do you guys know of a good place to eat around here? He said. Food's the least of your problems, kid, yelled one of the men as he threw a punch at Luffy's head. Luffy gasped as the straw hat fell off his head. He made a fist and his arm stretched as he punched the guy in the face, sending him flying a few feet away. Luffy grabbed his hat and placed it back on his head. You better keep your hands off my hat, he growled. You bastard, yelled the other two pirates. They were in disbelief and shock at how strong the boy was. They charged at Luffy with their swords. Luffy bent back and shot two of his fists at them as he stretched his arms. Gum gum pistol, he shouted as he punched the two pirates in the face, knocking them out cold. The orange-haired girl stared from the top of the roof in awe. Wow, you sure are strong, she called out to Luffy. Luffy looked up and blinked. Even though they had swords, you beat them both bare-handed. That's pretty cool, the girl said as she jumped off the roof and landed on her feet. Who are you, and why did you set me up? Asked Luffy. I'm a talented thief who steal from idiot pirates. The name's Nami. Say, wanna be a team? Asked Nami. Luffy crossed his arms behind his head. Nah, I'm good. Thanks for the offer though, he said and started to walk away. Hey, come on, at least think about it, called Nami as she started to follow after the Straw Hat Pirate. Luffy felt his stomach growl loudly and he fell to his knees and sighed. I'm still hungry, he mumbled as he rubbed his stomach. Nami held her hand out. Well, come with me and I'll get you something to eat, she said. Luffy jumped up on his feet with a wide grin on his face, his eyes sparkling happily. Really? He cheered. Nami blinked. What a weird guy, thought Nami to herself. Nami had led Luffy to an abandoned house and fixed the pirate up a hamburger and some rolls. She placed them on the table and took a seat across from him. Luffy's eyes sparkled as he saw the hamburger in front of him and picked it up. This is really good, said Luffy as he happily ate his burger in one bite. So, do you live here all by yourself? Asked Luffy as he chewed. No, this isn't my home. I'm just staying here for a while. Everyone left when Captain Buggy and his crew showed up, said Nami. Luffy made a loud burp. Oh, I see. You're just a petty thief, he said. How rude, I don't steal just from anybody. Just people who deserve it. Like no good pirates. So don't be comparing me to petty thieves and robbers, said Nami. Luffy took a big bite out of a roll as he munched down on it. A thief's a thief's, as far as I am concerned, he said with a shrug. Nami looked out the window. My goal is to get 100 million berries, and I won't let nothing or no one stop me from reaching my goal, she said. Luffy gulped down the rest of his food. Who do you need so much money? He asked. Nami crossed her arms. That's a secret. But with this chart of the Grand Line, my goal will soon come true, she said. Luffy placed his hand on his chin. A chart? So you must be a navigator, right? He asked. Nami smiled and nodded. Yep. I bet I'll be the most skilled navigator you'll ever meet, she said. Luffy smiled and stood up. That's great. How would you like to join my crew? I've been looking for a navigator, he said. Nami grinned. You mean it? She asked. Luffy grinned and nodded. Yeah, you can be our newest crew member, he said. The grin from Nami's face fell. No, she said as her voice went flat. Luffy's grin from his face disappeared. Nami frowned. Let me guess, you're on a pirate crew, right? Asked Nami in a disdained tone. Luffy grinned. Yeah, he said as he took off his straw hat holding it in his hand. I promised a guy who gave me this hat that I'll be a pirate and gather a strong crew, he said. Suddenly, Nami's hand slammed on the table. She had a hard glare on her face. There's nothing more in this world than I despise more than pirates. I only like money and tangerines, she yelled. Luffy placed his hat back on his head. Come on. Join my crew, he said. Nami stared at the boy with a look of disbelief. The more she stared, the more Nami felt her heart flutter as unknown feeling overwhelmed her, clouding her mind. There was no possible way that she liked this boy, could she? Nami sighed, then she looked away, out the window. No, she said as she looked out the window with her arms crossed. Luffy shrugged and began eating again. Your loss, he said as he ate his food. Suddenly, Nami spotted some of Buggy's pirates searching around in the streets. When they walked away, Nami clenched her teeth. Damn. I gotta ditch these losers somehow. But how? She wondered, then she looked back at Luffy. A smirk appeared on her face as she walked over towards the Straw Hat Captain. You know what, maybe I will join your crew. There's just a certain condition I have, though, she said. Luffy looked up. Really? Okay, I'll do whatever you want, he said. Nami's eyes danced with delight. Okay. I want you to come with me to meet Buggy the pirate. Let me tie you up, so, you can look good in front of Buggy. These are how new pirates meet each other, she said as she pulled out a rope from her pocket and began to tie Luffy up. Okay. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go, cheered Luffy as he beamed excitedly. Nami rolled her eyes and nodded. Okay. Just hold your horses, she said as she and the captain walked out of the house. The men of Buggy's crew silently whispered to each other as Nami and Luffy passed them. They stopped at a giant tent. Nami pushed Luffy to the ground. Luffy landed on his face and Nami stuck her tongue at him. She walked into the tent holding out a map. "I brought the thief, Captain Buggy. Here's your chart back," said Nami as she walked over to a man. The man had light blue hair like the sky, small black eyes. He was wearing an orange coat and hat and clown makeup. And also, what stood out the most was that he had a big round red nose. "Not that I don't appreciate it, but why the sudden change of heart?" Little Gurji as Nami handed him the chart. "I never really liked my boss and I just got sick of it. I want to see if I can join your crew." Nami lied. Captain Buggy's face began to twist as he grew angrier and snarled. His crew began to mumble to themselves, worried. "Uh-oh, the captain's angry, he's gonna use his devil fruit power." "Really?" asked Luffy. He looked at Captain Buggy curiously, wondering what his devil fruit power was. Then Captain Buggy began snorting and laughing like a maniac. He calmed down and looked at Nami. "Fed up with, are you? Alright, you seem like a fine young lady. Of course you can join," said Buggy as he began laughing again. Nami gave a fake smile. "What a doofus. Pirates are such idiots," she thought. "Hey, guys. Why am I in a cage?" asked Luffy, who was still tied up. He was now in a stone, metal cage. The crew snickered at him. Buggy snorted. "What a fine day to be a pirate. Tell me, girl, what's your name?" the captain asked Nami. "I'm Nami," she said. Buggy threw his hands in the air. "Then let's celebrate the welcoming of our new member, Nami," he yelled. He and his crew threw a party and celebrated. The crew members were drinking sake and performing circus tricks. Nami sat across from Buggy from a table that was filled to the top with food. Luffy's mouth watered at the sight of it. He sighed, sadly. "What's the matter, Nami? The party's in your honor, so have some fun," asked Buggy as he took a sip of his drink of sake. Nami smiled. "Thanks for the party, Captain," she said. "I'll just wait a little longer to get that chart back. Maybe I'll steal some of Buggy's loot while I'm at it," she thought as she took a bite out of her food. While everyone was partying, Luffy stretched his arm out trying to reach for a piece of meat. But, he couldn't reach it and his hand snapped back to him. "Damn it," cursed Luffy. "Alright, men, it's time to perform the Buggy Ball," cheered Captain Buggy. The crew members cheered and they brought a giant cannon and a large red cannonball. "What are you gonna do with that thing?" asked Nami as she raised an eyebrow. The big-nosed captain smirked. "Just observe, my friend," he said. The cannon was lit and was aimed at the town. Both Luffy's and Nami's eyes widened in shock. Boom! Zoro's raised his eyebrow as he stared at the burning building. He and the pirates found a port and docked the boat and saw the house suddenly explode from the Buggy Ball. "That was a hell of any explosion," said the swordsman. "That must have been Captain Buggy's most awesome Buggy Balls," said one of the men in awe. Zoro smirked and nearly chuckled. "Buggy Balls?" he asked. Then something caught his eye in the distance. He walked over and his eyes widened in shock as he saw that it was Aya. Zoro rushed over to her, checking the girl over. She wasn't moving, but he could see her chest rise and fall slowly as she breathed. Zoro twitched his eye. She was sleeping. He bent down to his knees and slapped the girl on the cheeks gently. "Oi, wake up," said Zoro. Aya groaned as she opened her eyes and she saw Zoro staring at her. Her eyes widened and she quickly sat up. She accidentally banged her forehead against his when she did. They both grabbed their forehands in pain. "What the hell?" shouted Zoro. Aya hissed through her teeth, holding her head. She quickly moved away from the swordsman. "What are you doing?" shouted Aya as she scooted away, but her back hit the tree. You're the one who was lying on the ground unconscious, remember?" said Zoro. Aya blushed and she crossed her arms over her chest, embarrassed. Then she narrowed her eyes at the swordsman, glaring at him. Zoro shivered from her icy stare. "Thank you for your concern. But I'm fine," she said coldly. Aya began to stand up. But, as soon as she did, Aya suddenly began to feel lightheaded and she began to fall forward. Zoro caught her just before she fell. Aya blushed as she realized her face was pressed close against Zoro's chest. She had never been this close to another man besides her brother. "Stop moving around so much," said Zoro as he held Aya's shoulders, steadying her. Aya pushed the swordsman away from her. "Don't tell me what to do," said Aya. "Fine then, the next time you fall, I won't catch you," said Zoro as he muttered under his breath. Ungrateful brat. Then suddenly Aya began coughing. Zoro raised an eyebrow. Aya clutched her shirt as she tried to stifle her cough, but it kept getting worse. "Are you alright?" asked Zoro. He reached a hand out to her, but Aya slapped it away. Aya reached into her pocket and pulled out a small bag. Zoro saw her shaking it and a small pill plopped right into her hand. She took it and little by little her cough started to manage itself and eventually it went away. "Are you sick or something?" asked Zoro. "Something like that," said Aya in a monotone voice. She put the bag back into her pocket. "As long as I take this, it should lessen some of the coughing." "Does Luffy know that you're sick?" asked the swordsman. Aya looked away from him. "Yes," said Aya, as she answered simply. Zoro looked at the girl with a serious look in his eyes. Something by the tone of her voice was off. She wasn't telling the truth. There was something more than she was letting on. Did Luffy know that there was something wrong with her? Why didn't he say anything? Did he even know how sick she was? Thought the Zoro to himself. He sighed. He was going to have to keep a close watch on Aya just in case something did happen. He growled in annoyance. Great, how did he turn from a swordsman into a babysitter? Zoro placed a hand on his face in frustration. Then he heard a snapping sound which made him break out of his thoughts. Zoro blinked. He saw Aya snapping her fingers in front of his face. "Enough questions, we've already wasted a lot of time as it is," said Aya. She looked at the burning house that was hit by the buggy ball. "And knowing my brother, we probably don't have much." She began to walk away. "Hey, wait," called out Zoro. Aya smirked. She turned around to him. Aya held her hand out. "You can hold my hand if you want. So, you won't get lost," said Aya in a teasing tone in her voice. A vein appeared on Zoro's head. "Are you asking me to kick your ass?" growled Zoro. Aya laughed. "Come on, let's go find my stupid brother," she said. Buggy's crew members cheered at the explosion and Captain Buggy smirked. "That was certainly flashy. With the power of my buggy balls and devil fruit powers, nothing will stop me from conquering the Grand Line. Right, Nami?" asked Buggy. Nami made a fake smile. Yes, of course," she said. "What? But it's my destiny to conquer the Grand Line," shouted Luffy. Captain Buggy's jaw clenched as he turned to look at the Straw Hat Captain in the cage, glaring at him. "And then I'll be the king of the pirates," said Luffy. "Shut up, idiot," yelled Nami. Captain Buggy chuckled. "I see why you despise him as your boss, Nami. He seems quite the nuisance," he said. Nami smiled, nervously. Yep. He's so naive. He acts like a little kid," she said. Captain Buggy chuckled again. "Then why don't I give you a buggy ball to end his life?" he asked. Nami's breath hitched as she stared at the clown captain with wide eyes. "What?" she asked. "This is the perfect way to prove your loyalty, boys," said Buggy. His men brought over the cannon and aimed it at Luffy. Luffy stared at it blankly. Buggy handed Nami a box of matches. "But come on, take his life. You don't like him anyway, right?" Buggy interrupted her. Nami stared at the matches in his hand as the crew cheered around her. "Fire, fire. If I don't light it, then I'll get killed. But if I do, then I'm no better than them," thought Nami with a worried look. She looked at Luffy, who stared at her, who had an unreadable expression on his face. "I know you won't do it. You're not that kind of person," thought Luffy. Nami looked down as she clenched her fist tightly. "Finish him, Nami," yelled Buggy. "What's the matter? Your hands are shaking," called Luffy. He had a light SMT's what happens when you take on pirates with half-assed resolve, said Luffy. "What resolve? To take a life of another? Is that the way of the pirate?" asked Nami. Luffy shook his head. "No, you gotta be risking your own life," he said, smirking. Nami's hands continued to shake. Suddenly, the matches were taken from her as they were ripped out of Nami's hands by one of the crew members and lit the match. Both Luffy's and Nami's eyes widened and, in a flash, Nami quickly pulled out a long pole and smacked the guy on the head, knocking him out. Everyone went silent and gasped. "Nami, what is the meaning of this?" yelled Buggy, furiously. "I'm sorry," shouted Nami. "So now you want to save me?" asked Luffy, confused. "No way, you moron. I will never stoop to these guys' levels. Pirates took the life of someone very dear to me and I'll never join them, ever," yelled Nami. Luffy nodded, understanding. "Ah, I see," he said. Suddenly, Luffy saw that the cannon was lit and was aimed at him. "Nami, help," he screamed. "Get her," yelled Buggy. His crew members ran at the girl with their swords. Nami easily dodged them, and without wasting a second, she rushed over to the cannon and grabbed the lit fuse. Nami gritted her teeth tightly as she tried not to scream as the fire singed her skin. She sighed in relief as the flames went out. "Look out," yelled Luffy as he saw pirates coming at Nami from behind. They brought their swords down on her. Nami gasped and she closed her eyes. But nothing happened. Slowly, Nami opened her eyes and everyone let out a gasp. Zoro had blocked the swords from reaching Nami as he held them back. Aya walked up. "It's wrong to gang up on a lady," said Zoro. Luffy's face broke out into a grin. "Zoro, Aya, boy am I glad to see you," he said, happily. Aya looked over at her brother in the cage. "Can't keep yourself out of trouble, can you?" asked Aya. "Maybe, I should just leave you in there. It'll save me the trouble," she smirked. Luffy growled. "You better let me out of here." "Aya, this isn't funny," shouted Luffy. Zoro looked at Nami. "You alright?" he asked. Nami nodded her head slowly. Yeah, thanks," she said. Nami stared at Aya in shock. "There's two of them," thought Nami to herself in disbelief. "And here I thought one was bad enough." Zoro nodded and looked at Luffy. "This is just swell. First you get caught by a bird and now you're in a cage? Sheesh. You're a glutton for punishment, huh?" he asked. Luffy giggled. "It's actually a funny story, really. I'll tell you about it later," he said. "The crew he mentioned earlier. Are these two? And is that the great pirate hunter, Roronoa Zoro?" Nami wondered as she stared at the swordsman with wide eyes. "Hey, so you're the legendary Roronoa Zoro? If you're here for my head, then that will be quite a problem for you," said Buggy. Zoro closed his eyes. "No, I'm not interested. I gave up on pirate hunting. I'm here for my friend," he said in a low monotone voice. Buggy smirked. "But I'm interested, though. Killing you would boost up my reputation," he snickered. Then Buggy's eyes glanced over towards Aya. "Maybe, I'll go for the girl first." Zoro's eyes widened and he gave a cold glare. "If you try, you die," said the swordsman. Aya tilted her head as she looked at Zoro. Why was he so protective over her all of a sudden? She thought to herself. Buggy crackled and pulled out 6 daggers, twirling them with his fingers. "Is that so?" asked the clown pirate captain in a teasing tone in his voice. Zoro sighed in frustration and furrowed his eyebrows. "I tried to warn you," he muttered. The crew members cheered for their captain as he licked the blade of his dagger. Zoro gripped one of his katanas between his teeth while he held the other 2 in his hands. Then Buggy rushed towards the swordsman with his 6 daggers. He jumped into the air. Zoro leapt as well and his swords cut through the clown captain in one sweep, slicing him into many pieces. Zoro turned to the pirate lying on the ground. "That wasn't much of a fight, was it?" he asked. "Wow, he was weak." "Way to go, Zoro," cheered Luffy. Nami blinked when she noticed that Buggy's crew members were snickering. "Why are they laughing?" asked Luffy, confused. "Their captains is dead and they're laughing?" asked Nami, confused as well. Zoro raised his eyebrow. "Hey, fellas, why are you—" Aya interrupted the swordsman as she saw something move behind him. "Behind you," warned Aya. Zoro's eyes suddenly widened as he felt a sharp stab of pain in his abdomen. "Ah!" He looked behind him and what he saw made Luffy, Nami and Aya gasp. Buggy's severed hand, which was holding a dagger, was the one that stabbed the swordsman. Zoro fell to his knees as blood began to stain through his shirt. "Zoro!" cried Luffy. The Straw Hat's eyes widened as panic began to rush over him. "Buggy's hand, it moved on its own," exclaimed Nami. "But how is that possible? He was dead. We all saw it happen," shouted Aya. Zoro shut one eye in pain as he turned his back. The severed hand flew back and reattached itself to the clown pirate, who was now standing completely intact. What the hell?" chalked out Zoro. He stared at the pirate in disbelief as his breathing began to become irregular. Buggy snickered and made a sickening smirk. "The chop chop fruit. That is the name of the devil fruit that gave me my powers." I'm a chop person and I can never be defeated by a sword. Ever, laughed Buggy. His body reattached himself. And I thought the legend of the devil fruit was just a myth, said Nami. So he's a chop man? That's pretty weird, said Luffy. You think that's weird? You're made out of rubber, shouted Aya. Buggy began crackling. Wait, he has devil fruit powers too? Exclaimed Nami as she looked at Luffy. Yep, said the Straw Hat Captain as he pulled back his mouth to show her. See? Asked Luffy. Nami paled and she looked away from him. You're not really helping, right now, Luffy, said Aya. You're freaking her out even more. Nami was still trying to wrap her head around what she had saw. Then she looked at Aya. Please don't tell me you devil fruit powers as well? Asked Nami. Aya shook her head. Nami sighed in relief. I didn't hit any vital organs, but it looks like my dagger stabbed you good. So that makes me the victor, laughed the clown caption as his crew snickered along with him. Zoro gritted his teeth and shut his eyes. No, that makes you a cheater, shouted Aya. Buggy glared at the seafoam-eyed girl. Do you want to die, girl? Growled Buggy. Come and fight me then, shouted Aya. Shut up, shouted Nami as she struggled to hold Aya back. I let my guard down. That was a weak move. Zoro muttered as he gripped his wound trying to stop the bleeding as more blood began to pool out falling to the ground. Luffy clenched his teeth tightly as he glared angrily at the laughing clown pirate. Stabbing him in the back was a cowardly move. You big nose, screamed Luffy at the top of his lungs. Everyone went silent and stared at the Straw Hat Captain, eyes wide and their mouths dropped. What's that? Did you say, big nose? Yelled Buggy as he threw his weapon at Luffy. Luffy, yelled Zoro. Luffy smirked and looked up showing the dagger that was now clenched in between his teeth. Hey, Buggy. I'm gonna kick your ass as soon as I get out of this cage. He laughed. Luffy bit down on the dagger breaking it in half. Buggy began howling in laughter. You kick my ass? That's big talk, boy. If you want to do some ass kicking, you better do it quick. All 4 of you will die here by my hands, said the clown pirate as he continued to laugh, his crew joining him as well. Zoro glared at him. Luffy threw his head back and began to laugh. Buggy and the others stopped laughing. I refuse to die, Zoro. Get up, yelled Luffy. What? Asked Zoro in disbelief. You better have a good reason or else we're dead, yelled Nami. Luffy smiled at her then looked back at Zoro. The swordsman blinked then he smirked. I gotcha, he said. Nami nearly fell over pirates. She thought, worriedly. Buggy suddenly charged at Zoro and the two began to fight. Blades clash against each other. Then unexpectedly, Zoro jumps over him and made a dash towards the Buggy cannon. He lifted the cannon and aimed it at the clown pirates. Zoro fell back on his knees, placing hands on his wound, sweating dripping down his face. Aya walked over to the cannon and Nami tossed her the matches. She lit the match holding it in front of her. Captain Buggy and the rest of his crew members gaped in horror. No, don't aim it at us. It still has a buggy ball, yelled Buggy. Bye-bye, said Aya as she smirked and waved. The fuse was lit and the cannon fired. The buggy ball shot out of the cannon and fired straight towards the clown pirates, wiping them out and scattering them. Zoro lifted the cage with Luffy inside of it. Zoro, are you okay? Asked Luffy in concern. He saw the blood dripping from his wound falling to the ground. Shish, shut up and don't worry about me. I'll get us out of this one way or another, muttered the injured swordsman as he struggled to walk, dragging the cage along with him. Then he notices Nami. By the way, Luffy, who's the girl? Muttered Zoro. Yeah, who is she? Asked Aya. Your new girlfriend. Luffy blushed and he glared at her. Nami frowned. She is not my girlfriend, boyfriend. They both shouted together. Aya rolled her eyes and shrugged. She's our new navigator, said Luffy. Seriously, who are you guys? You shouldn't be moving on that kind of injury, said Nami. A vein appeared on Zoro's head as he lifted the cage above his head with all his might. Get out of the way, he snapped. Nami blinked. Even with a serious injury, he still doesn't want to leave his friends, she thought as she turned away and started walking away. Zoro carried the cage, with Aya following until they made it to the village square. He fell flat on his back on the ground, exhausted. He panted and breathed heavily, trying to catch his breath. "You okay?" asked Aya. "Just need to rest," panted Zoro. For some reason, Zoro felt like he was being watched. He opened his eyes and saw a little white dog, sitting in front of the three. "What's with his dog?" asked Zoro with his eyebrows raised. Luffy's eyes lit up as soon as he saw the dog. "Doggy," squealed Luffy as he teetered his cage closer towards the canine. He pulled his eyelid in the corner of his lip, making faces at the dog. "Blah." The dog didn't move a muscle. "Zoro, this dog looks frozen," said Luffy. Zoro rolled his eyes. "I don't give a damn. He can sit there forever for all I care," he muttered. Aya walked over to the dog and bent down, petting it. It still didn't move, not reacting, as she continued to pet it. Aya frowned. "What a weird dog," she said to herself. Luffy giggled as he gently tapped the dog on the head with his finger. The dog immediately opened his mouth and sank his teeth on Luffy's head. "Ah, you damn mutt. What the hell?" yelled Luffy. Aya laughed as Luffy tried to shake the dog off from his hand. "Stop laughing," yelled Luffy. "Why didn't it not bite you, but me?" Aya giggled. "Maybe he just doesn't like you," she said. Luffy growled. "Luffy, get serious." Zoro tried to get up but fell back to the ground. The white dog jumped back into its guarding position. "Damn mutt," muttered Luffy, holding his hand in pain. "I don't feel so good," groaned Zoro. Nami walked over and Luffy grinned as he saw her. "Oh, hey, navigator," he said, cheerily. Nami smiled. "I guess I should give you this. After all, you got me out of a sticky situation. Just make sure that this makes us even," she said. Nami tossed the key to Luffy's cage to the Straw Hat Pirate. "Awesome, you stole this for me? Thanks, Nami," said Luffy as he reached for the key. But a pink tongue lapped it up as the white dog swallowed it whole. Zoro, Nami, and Luffy stared at the dog in shock. Aya snickered. Luffy grabbed the dog and started strangling it as he shook it wildly. "You damn mutt. Give me back my key. Give it, give it, give it," yelled Luffy. "Hey, stop that. Stop picking on poor Cho-Cho and leave him alone," yelled a voice. The Ford turned and saw a man with white curly hair and glasses. "And just who are you, old man?" asked Zoro. The man glared at the Fore. "Old man? I happen to be the mayor of this town," he said. Then he noticed Zoro's wound and gave a concerned look. "My, that's some injury. You need to see a doctor," said the old man. The mayor came out of his house that he led Zoro into and walked over to Luffy, Nami, Aya, and Cho-Cho. "Will Zoro be okay?" asked Luffy, worried. The mayor sighed. "I insisted he see a doctor, but he said he just wanted to sleep it off," he said. "So this dog's name is Cho-Cho?" asked Nami as she petted the dog's head. "Why is he acting so frozen? He sure is one lazy dog," joked Luffy. "He's protecting the store," said the mayor. The three tilted their heads. Cho-Cho used to belong to owner of the pet shop. But he passed away and he's been guarding it ever since, thinking that he will come back. I've tried to get him to live with me, but that dog's very adamant about protecting that store, like it's his most precious treasure," explained the mayor. Aya looked at the dog sadly. Suddenly, the ground started to shake unexpectedly. A loud roaring sound was heard. The mayor ran away and Nami and Aya chased after him. It eventually stopped. Luffy sighed. "Come on, doggy. Something's here," he said. The dog just stared at him, not moving an inch. Then, suddenly, a shadow towered over Luffy and he looked up. Blood-red eyes stared back into his as a giant lion stood over him. It had white fur and a purplish mane, and there was also a man, with white hair, sitting on top of the lion's head in a furry suit. "Who the hell are you?" asked Luffy, calmly, not even fazed by the gigantic beast. "I am known as the Beast Tamer Moji, a member of the Buggy Pirates. Now, prepare to face your death," yelled the white-haired man. Luffy blinked and the lion slammed its paw down, busting the cage, sending Luffy flying through the air. "Gum gum," yelled Luffy as he tied his hands around the lion's mane and threw him over his shoulder. "Hammer," yelled Luffy as he slammed the lion into the ground. Luffy's hat got knocked off in the process. He bent down and picked it up. What are you? Yelled Moji, completely terrified at what he had just witnessed. Luffy had his head lowered as his hat casted a shadow over his face. He looked up with a frown. Well, I ate the gum fruit, he said in a low tone. Moji flinched. So, you ate a devil fruit like Captain Buggy? Only yours make you stretch like rubber? I'm sorry. I don't want any trouble, yelled Moji. Luffy had his back to the lion tamer. There's no need to apologize to me. Because of you, that little dog will never get back his most precious treasure. And because of that, Luffy turned to him with a serious look in his eyes. I'm gonna kick your ass, he snarled. Luffy grabbed the man by the chest and slammed him to the ground. Luffy walked back to the pet shop that was completely demolished. Cho-Cho was staring at it. Oh, so you were alive, pirate. I thought that lion would rip your head off. But, since it didn't, maybe I should? Then there be one less of you monsters to exist, yelled Nami as she ran with hatred in her eyes. The mayor and Aya rushed after her. Stop, there's no need for violence, said the mayor as he grabbed Nami's arm. As if you could kill me, said Luffy as he walked past them. I could if I wanted to, yelled Nami. Try it and you die, said Aya. Nami glared at her. What did you say to me? She yelled. That I can kick your ass and will if you try anything to my brother, said Aya, coldly. Nami stared at her with wide eyes. Luffy ignored them as he walked over to the dog. He lifted his hat and under was a bag of dog food. He placed in front of the dog and sat down next to him. Sorry, but that was all I could save. That bastard lion ate up all the rest, said Luffy, Grig. He fought the lion to save Cho-Chow's food, thought Nami as she stared in wide eyes in surprise. You fought well, though I didn't see it. You're a really brave doggy, said Luffy as he petted Cho-Chow's head. The dog grabbed the box of dog food and carried it off. It let out a happy bark. Luffy grinned. Yeah, good luck to you, doggy, he said. Hey, sorry for snapping at you like that, Luffy, apologized Nami as she walked over. Luffy grinned and he stood up. It's okay. You've just been under a lot of stress, so there's no need to apologize, he said. It's all my fault. I'm the one who runs this town and I failed to protect it, I failed, yelled the mayor. Suddenly, there was an explosion as the mayor's house was destroyed. Luffy's and Aya's eyes widened in shock. Zoro was in that building, cried Luffy. He rushed over the demolished building and began pulling and digging through the rubble. Zoro? Zoro? Are you okay? Please be alright, yelled Luffy. He's probably dead by now, said the mayor. Don't say that, said Aya. No, Zoro is okay. He's stronger than he looks. He's not dead, no way, yelled Luffy. Ow. That's one good way to wake up, muttered a low gruff voice. Zoro groaned as he sat up, rubbing his head. Luffy quickly ran over to him, hugging him. You're alive, he cheered. Zoro cringed as he felt some of Luffy's snot fall on him. Gee, get off of me, idiot, shouted the swordsman as he tried to pry the rubber boy off of him. Aya laughed. That's it, I'll defeat Buggy and his crew once and for all, yelled the mayor as he sprinted away. Dear God, what is this world coming to? That guy's going to get himself killed, muttered Nami. Zoro stood up with Luffy, who still had his arms wrapped around him, clinging onto him tightly. Then I guess we're gonna go help him out, right, Luffy? Asked Zoro. Luffy grinned. You bet, are you coming, Nami? Asked Luffy as he held his hand out to her. Nami slapped it away. I would never stoop so low to join a pirate crew. However, the orange-haired girl smirked. I guess we could team up in order to reach our goals, she said. Luffy smiled and nodded in agreement. The four ran through the town until they saw Buggy along with the mayor. Buggy had his hands around the old man's throat as he choked him. Luffy shot out his fist, stretching his arm and slammed it into Buggy's face, making the clown pirate let go of the mayor, knocking him back. Zoro stood next to him with his black bandana tied on his head. Nami stood beside Luffy with a smile on her face. Aya stood in between Zoro and Luffy, holding up her fist, wearing her necklace around her neck. Luffy looked up at Buggy with a smirk, tilting his hat. Good to see ya again, Buggy. Now, what was that promise I made to you? Oh yeah, I'm gonna kick your ass, he yelled with a determined look on his face. Captain Buggy glared at Luffy as he held his cheek in pain. He gritted his teeth as he seethed in rage. "Damn you, Straw Hat!" yelled Buggy. "How dare you? You can't just walk up and treat me like that. I'm Captain Buggy and I won't stand for it," he shouted. The mayor coughed as he grabbed his throat, trying to catch his breath. Nami turned to the swordsman. "Remember, all I want is the chart and the treasure, you got it?" said Nami. "Yeah, I know," said Zoro. The mayor looked at Zoro, Luffy, Nami, and Aya. He frowned. "You brats. Why'd you follow me? You outsiders should mind your own business. This is my fight. I'm gonna be the one to protect my people in town. Buggy is my fight," he shouted angrily. Luffy walked up to him and kicked the mayor on the side of his head, sending him flying into a brick wall. He slumped to the ground as he fell unconscious. Nami gasped in shock. "What the hell do you think you're doing? Why did you do that to the mayor?" she yelled. "Because he was in the way," said Luffy as he looked at her. Aya nodded her head in agreement. "It's best this way. If he'd fought, he would have been killed or caught in the crossfire," she said. Zoro nodded his head. Nami frowned in disapproval and sighed. "Still, you didn't need to be so rough with him," said Nami. "There are other ways of handling the situation." Luffy ignored her and walked over to the building where Captain Buggy and the clown pirates, who were standing on top of the roof. Luffy smirked mischievously as he looked directly at the clown captain. "Here goes," said Luffy as he took in a deep breath. Big nose. He screamed. All of Buggy's pirate crew, including himself, gaped shock as their jaws dropped. Nami cringed. Zoro smirked. Aya snickered as she saw the look on their faces. "That's the worst thing you could have said to him," shouted Nami. Veins began to appear on Buggy's face as he glared at Luffy furiously. "The audacity, I won't stand for it. You're really pissing me off. Fire that Buggy ball. Kill him. Kill them all, now," Captain Buggy shouted. The crew aimed a cannon at the fore. "Why did you say that, you idiot?" said Nami as she took off to get away from the cannon's line of fire. "Come on Luffy, we gotta go," said Zoro, worried. Luffy didn't move from his spot, he smirked. "You two go. I'll be fine, just watch," said Luffy. Aya shook her head, not moving as well. "I want to stay and watch too," said Aya. Zoro clenched his teeth in frustration. "You're both crazy. We need to move now," he shouted. "Fire now," shouted the clown captain. The cannon went off and headed straight towards Luffy. "That won't work on me," said Luffy as he smirked. "Gum gum balloon," he shouted. Then Luffy began to blow up as he began to inflate himself. The cannon collided into him as he caught the Buggy ball, completely unharmed from the blast. Zoro and Nami stared completely dumbfounded as well as the rest of the clown pirates. What is he?" shouted Buggy's crew members, shocked. "He caught the Buggy ball," shouted Captain Buggy. Luffy smirked. Then he launched the Buggy ball back towards the pirates as it rebounded back towards them. Their eyes widened in horror as the ball came closer towards them. "He's throwing it back," shouted the crew members as they tried to scramble away, trying to get out of the line of fire. "Run! Hide! Do something!" Aya felt someone grab her wrist and she looked to see that it was Zoro. He dragged her away from Luffy as the cannonball sailed closer towards the building. "Damn it! We need to move, now!" he shouted as he and Aya ran, taking cover. The Buggy ball hit the building, destroying it, scattering the clown pirates. Zoro, Aya, and Nami managed to shield themselves from the blast as they took cover. They saw that the building was destroyed and Buggy's pirates were unconscious. "All right, it hit them," said the Straw Hat captain. "What the hell are you?" shouted Nami. "A little warning would have been nice," growled Zoro. Luffy giggled. Nami scratched her head in frustration. Suddenly, the rubble began to move and the four looked to see Buggy coming out of the pile, holding two of his men as shields. "How dare you do that to us?" he growled as he tossed the crew members away. Nami frowned in disgust. "Unreal, he used his underlings as a shield," she said. Zoro, Aya and Luffy frowned as well. Lying on the ground of the destroyed building, Moji began to wake up. He quickly stood up and wildly looked around, confused. "What's going on here?" he asked. Then his eyes landed on Luffy. Moji's eyes widened in fear. "It's you," he stammered in fear. Luffy smiled. "Hi," he said as he waved at him. "Captain, you have to be careful, he's got devil fruit powers." "I saw it myself," said Moji in a panicked voice to his captain. Buggy frowned. "That explains how he survived that buggy ball," he said as he looked at Luffy. Then he began to smile sadistically, delighted with the thought of fighting with another devil fruit user. "This should be interesting," he said to himself. Moji tried to protest, but he heard something from behind him. "Captain, what's with all the ruckus?" a voice called out. The four saw a man holding Moji's lion, with his hair tied back partly while one side was shaved. He was wearing a blue and white checkered scarf, a sleeveless purple coat that reached down to his knees, white pants being held up by a light blue sash and white shoes. "Kabaji, how nice of you to join us," said Buggy as he smirked sickeningly. "Kabaji, you put him down, right now," shouted Moji, angrily as he saw the man holding his lion. He tossed the giant lion aside and it cowered behind the remains of the brick walls from the building, in fear. Moji charged at Kabaji, getting ready to throw a punch. But he kicked the tamer away, sending him flying towards Luffy. "Out of my way!" screamed Moji. Luffy smirked. "How about you?" Then he kicked Moji. "Get out of my way!" shouted Luffy as Moji's face crashed into a wall. He slid to the ground with a thud. Kabaji smirked as he and Buggy watched. "Captain Buggy, allow me to pay their disrespect," asked Kabaji. "Fine, but make it a good show for everyone," said Buggy. Kabaji smirked as he looked at the four. "Get them!" shouted Buggy. Kabaji brought out a unicycle from out of his coat and charged at Luffy with his sword in hand. "You may call me Acrobat Kabaji, Captain Buggy's chief of staff. You will pay for your insolence," he shouted. Just as he brought his sword down on Luffy, it was blocked by another, by Zoro's. "Since you're using a sword, I'll be your opponent," said the swordsman. "It's an honor, Roronoa Zoro. I'll fight you as a swordsman. I'll relish the chance to slay you," said Kabaji. Then he looked down at Zoro's wound as blood began to stain through the swordsman's clothes as the wound reopened. "Hey, Zoro. You really should get some rest. Let me handle it," Luffy protested, but Zoro interrupted. "Just stay back. I need to do this," he said as he looked at Luffy. The Straw Hat Captain stared at him for a moment before nodding his head. Zoro nodded back in appreciation, then turned his attention towards Kabaji. The acrobat had a sickening smirk on his face. Aya frowned, concerned. Something wasn't right. What was he up to? Kabaji smirked. Before Zoro could counter, he blew fire into Zoro's face. Then Swordsman managed to deflect some of it away with his swords. But Kabaji came at him quickly and swinged his leg, hitting Zoro's wound. Luffy, Nami, and Aya gasped as Zoro screamed in pain and fell to the ground. He hissed as he held his side, glaring at the acrobat. Kabaji chuckled darkly. "I'm guessing you didn't have time to heal," said the acrobat. "He fights dirty, going after his injury like that," said Nami, disgusted. "What a cheater, I'm going to kick his ass," shouted Aya. She gritted her teeth in anger. Aya was about to rush in, but Luffy held her back as he placed his arm out in front of her. Aya looked and saw that he had a calm look on his face. Then she looked back towards Zoro lying on the ground. As Muelper friend, Aya couldn't. Zoro had placed his trust in Luffy that they wouldn't interfere with the fight. The swordsman had to prove that he had to do this on his own. Then Kabaji stabbed the ground with the tip of his sword. He began to spin around, faster, faster, and faster until a cloud of dust began to form, hiding himself. "Acrobat, my ass, that's just an ordinary dust cloud," said Zoro. Then in flash, Zoro narrowly deflected Kabaji's sword as it almost stabbed him. Then Kabaji swings his leg and hits Zoro's wound, again. Zoro howled in agony as he felt the burning pain on his left side. "He did it again," shouted Nami. "You were foolish to fight me." Kabaji laughed as he watched Zoro lying at his feet as he howled and rolled around in pain. Luffy clenched his fists tightly while Aya glared at the acrobat. "He keeps fighting with such a bad injury. He's hurt so bad. I don't understand how he can stand to fight," said Nami to herself. Then she turned her head sharply looking at Luffy. "Why are you just standing there watching? He's going to get himself killed, you know," she shouted while Luffy gazed at Zoro firmly, ignoring her. Kabaji smirked as he raised his sword. "He's finished," he said as he charged towards Zoro. "Come, you bastard," said Zoro as he got up from the ground. "Having fun picking at my wound? Then go ahead." He glared darkly at Kabaji as the acrobat continued to charge towards the swordsman. Everyone gasped as Kabaji sliced right through Zoro's wound as the swordsman didn't move, not even flinching. "Why didn't he dodge his attack?" asked Nami. "Is that enough of a handicap for you?" Zoro lifted his head as he smirked, threateningly. "Let me show you just how superior my skills are to yours." Kabaji reeled back as Zoro's cold glare sent shivers down his spine. "Yeah, Zoro. Get him," cheered Luffy. "You made a vast error of judgment." "I won't be mocked," growled Kabaji. "I'm going to be the world's greatest swordsman. I refuse to lose to someone like you, who calls himself a swordsman," said Zoro as he pulled out his katana that had a white sheath. "Brave words for someone who's about to die," said Kabaji as he pointed his sword at Zoro. "If I lose to you, then I don't have very bright future ahead of me, do I?" said Zoro as he placed the white sword, clenching it between his teeth. "Why you little?" Kabaji growled, grinding his teeth angrily. "All right. Yeah," cheered Luffy. "Yeah, kick his ass," cheered Aya. Nami stared at the two twins in disbelief. "I won't stay and watch this," said Nami as she began to walk away. "You pirates can just kill each other for all I care. And it doesn't even matter to me whether you guys win or lose. I'm going to take this opportunity to swipe their treasure and get out of here. Maybe we can team up if we see each other again. Bye." Luffy watched her as she left. "Yeah, thanks. See ya," shouted Luffy as he turned back towards Zoro's fight. Kabaji held his hand out and spinning tops shot out towards Zoro. Zoro dodged out of the way while deflecting some with his katanas. Nami was walking down an alleyway looking for Buggy's treasure hideout. Then she stopped and looked back thinking about Luffy, Zoro, and Aya. "Those guys are not normal. They're completely crazy. Nothing good will come from it," she said to herself. Then she ran off. Nami stopped as saw a door that was hidden behind a pile of wood. She opened it and walked down the stairs until she stopped when the thief saw a guard sleeping in a chair, passed out drunk. Nami sneaked past him until she stopped at a door that was locked. She took out her staff. "Here we are. Now to steal their treasure and chart and get out of here," said Nami as she broke the lock off the door. Zoro sliced the tops that came out at him with ease until he stopped when he saw Kabaji smirked. The acrobat rode straight up the walls. Zoro watched, wondering what he was up to. He sees Kabaji leap off the wall high into the air. "Wow, that's high," said Luffy as he watched Kabaji flying from above, shielding his eyes from the sun with his hand. He and Aya sees Kabaji coming down with his sword at Zoro. Buggy smirks and holds his right arm out. "Chop chop cannon," he yells. His hand detached itself and launched towards the swordsman. "Kabaji, I'll hold him, finish him off," Buggy shouted. "Aye aye, Captain," Kabaji shouted as he came down on Zoro. Zoro's eyes widened as he saw the hand coming at him. He had no time to dodge both. However, a foot slammed down hard on Buggy's hand as Aya stepped down on it. Buggy screeched in pain. "You stay out of this, coward," shouted Aya. "Aya!" shouted Zoro, shocked. "You bitch!" shouted Buggy as he glared at her angrily. Luffy giggled gleefully. He walked up next to Aya, cracking his knuckles. "You want to fight someone?" asked Luffy, with a wide grin on his face. "How about us?" Buggy backed up looking at the two twins nervously. Aya smirked. "I am so going to enjoy this," she said with a wicked grin on her face. Nami lit a lamp that she found. She squealed with glee as soon as she saw the gleaming treasure before her. "Look at all of this stuff. And every last bit of it is mine." She scooped up some of the coins and jewels and they ran down her in between fingers as they fell back into the pile. She smiled as she picked up a crown and placed it on her head. Suddenly, she saw a sword appeared next to her face. "What do you think you're doing with our treasure?" a slurred voice called out from behind her. Nami turned around, dropping the crown. The drunken pirate had woken up. "Oh crap, he woke up," thought Nami to herself, nervously. "By order of Captain Buggy, anyone who gets near the treasure will—" The drunk pirate paused and looked down at his drink but whined seeing that it was empty. It's all gone," He grumbled to himself. Nami smirked as he was distracted. She kneeled down holding her chest, groaning in pain. "Oh, it hurts?" she moaned. "Hey, you alright?" asked the pirate, confused. "My chest starting hurting really bad." "What your chest?" The pirate downed and saw the swell of Nami's breasts as she pulled down her shirt revealing her cleavage. The pirate blushed and began to drool, perversely. Nami smirked as she took out her staff and hit the pirate right in between his legs. He fell like a sack of potatoes to the floor, knocked out. Nami giggled until she saw a chain of keys around the pirate's neck. She took them and walked over to a chest and opened it. Inside was a rolled-up piece of paper. She smiled as she took it out. "Yes, the chart of the Grand Line," shouted Nami, happily. Aya pressed down harder on Buggy's hand. The clown captain gritted his teeth in pain. He glared at her and Luffy as the two stood in front of him. Zoro watched as he kneeled on the ground, panting, and a little faint from the blood loss. "I assure you I don't need my captain to finish you off," said Kabaji. "Enough, I'm tired of this," said Zoro as he panted with each breath. Kabaji laughed. "So you've finally given up, have you?" the acrobat stated. "I think you've misunderstood. I'm tired of watching your boring little sideshow," said Zoro. Kabaji grinded his teeth as he glared at Zoro, angrily. "So sorry to disappoint you. How about a real sword fight? Die!" exclaimed Kabaji. He made a mad dash towards the swordsman. Zoro crossed his two swords across his chest while the white one was in his mouth. He slashed horizontally as Kabaji charged straight through him. The two stood back to back from each other until Zoro dropped to his knees, falling to the ground. Suddenly, blood spurted out from Kabaji's chest. "Kabaji!" shouted Buggy in disbelief. "I can't believe that I was defeated by petty thieves," said the acrobat as he fell from his unicycle and collapsed onto the ground as he went unconscious. "We aren't petty thieves. We're pirates," grunted Zoro. Then he collapsed on the ground as well, completely exhausted. "Luffy, Aya, I'm going to sleep," he said. Then he closed his eyes and began snoring loudly. "Okay. I'm looking forward to th turned to Buggy, grinning wildly. "Oh, so am I," said Aya as she smirked. Buggy growls as he looks at the two twins. Nami dragged a large sack of treasure, lugging it behind her as she struggled to pull it. It was incredibly heavy. She stopped and panted, taking a rest. Nami wiped the sweat off from her forehead. "I scored an impressive treasure from the Buggy pirates, but hauling treasure is tiring. But, I guess it's worth the effort, though." Suddenly, Luffy, Zoro, and Aya appeared in her mind. She was confused. Pirates fighting for other people, risking their lives, instead of for themselves. No ordinary pirates would do that. She brushed her thoughts away and stood up. "Anyway, I need to find a boat so I can hightail it out of here," said Nami. Just as she was about to grab the sack, Luffy appeared in her mind again. Nami shook her head in frustration. Nothing good will come out of it. He's a dirty no-good pirate. Just like all the rest, thought Nami to herself. Then she looked back to where the fight was with a distant look on her face. Buggy looked at Luffy, then at Aya, eyeing them cautiously to see who would make a move first. He felt like a cornered animal as he backed up away from them. Then two twins smirked and cracked their knuckles. "You guys are pirates?" asked Buggy. "Yeah, we're heading to the Grand Line," replied Luffy. "Huh. That's not an easy voyage, you know. I don't think you have what it takes. And what will you do, if you, by some miracle, make it there? Go on a sightseeing tour or something?" Buggy laughed. "Be king, queen of the pirates," said the two twins, unfazed. Buggy stopped laughing as he stared at them in shock. "You can't be serious, you idiots. I'm going to be king of the pirates," he said, baring his teeth angrily. "You're annoying. Let's go ahead and settle this," said Luffy, getting into a fighting stance. Aya got into a fighting stance as well. "Yeah, stop yapping and let's get to fighting," she said. Buggy pulled out 8 knives. "Seeing that Straw Hat really makes my blood boil. So bring it on, you wannabe pirates," said Buggy, getting redder and redder by the minute. "You remind me of him. That damn sneaky red hair pirate." The two twins' eyes widened in shock as they lowered their hands slightly. "What did you say?" asked Luffy. "Red hair?" questioned Aya. "Wait, are you saying that you knew Shanks?" demanded Luffy. That's right, growled Buggy. Do you know where he is now? Asked Aya. I don't know. Maybe I do, maybe I don't, said Buggy, looking menacingly. Aya growled in annoyance. What are you talking about? Did you forget? Said Luffy. Aya placed her hand on her forehead as she facepalmed herself. I suppose ignorance is bliss, especially when it comes to Luffy, thought Aya to herself. No, I didn't forget, you moron, shouted Buggy at Luffy. Luffy grinned. Fine. I'll make you tell us, he shouted. You can try, but you'll be dead before you get a chance to ask. Rubber can't bounce back knives, said Buggy. Then he looked at Aya. I will cut you into little ribbons, little girl. Aya laughed. You wish, said Aya. Buggy growled. He stomps his shoes, making knives appear out of them. Then he throws his lower half at Aya, cartwheeling on the ground. Aya narrowly dodges out of the way in time. Then Buggy threw daggers straight at her, but Luffy catches them between his fingers. Did you forget, you fighting me as well? Asked Luffy as he tossed the blades aside. Ho, how interesting, said Buggy. Luffy giggled. You're not so bad yourself, but it's my turn now, gum pistol, shouted Luffy as he leapt into the air, throwing his fist back. I can predict your attack in the air, said Buggy. He moved out of the way just as Luffy crashed down, creating a crater in the ground. Shut up, you idiot, shouted Luffy as he charged at Buggy, throwing his fist back, but Buggy separated his head from his body, dodging the attack. Damn it. Stop breaking into pieces, growled Luffy. Buggy laughed. Aya frowned and groaned in frustration. This is going nowhere. How can we beat him? She thought to herself. I can't believe they're still fighting. These three are insane, said Nami, watching from afar, hiding behind the corner of a building. In the middle of the fight, some of the Buggy pirates have woke up. Did you see that? One of them said. Be quiet, act like you're still unconscious. If we get involved in this, we'll never make it out of here alive, said the other. All of them began sweating nervously as they silently watched, pretending to be knocked out. Buggy shoots his arm, with 4 daggers at Aya. She catches it, but then she froze when she saw Buggy smirk. Why is he smirking? Thought Aya to herself. Separate, shouted Buggy as he detached his fist from his wrist. Aya tried to maneuver out of the way but managed to get a scratch on her cheek while Luffy had a scratch on his temple. Buggy laughed hysterically. How do you like that, you cocky brats? He shouted in a taunting tone. You ready to give up yet? Then his expression changed into a frown when he didn't receive a reply from the two of them. Blood began to run down the side of Luffy's face. He had a darkened look in his eyes as he held his hat. On the edge there was a small cut. Aya cringed at his expression. Then she turned towards the clown pirate. You donked up. Big time, said Aya. You bastard, screamed Luffy. Buggy nearly jumped, startled by Luffy's shout at him. You mad that I scratched your face? Buggy snickered, not realizing what he had just done. Luffy glared at him, clenching the hat tightly in his hand. Bastard. How dare you damage this hat? No one damages my lucky hat and gets away with it. This hat is my only treasure. I won't forgive anyone who so much as lay a finger on it, roared Luffy, angrily. Buggy raised an eyebrow in surprise at the boy. Nami was stunned as she watched. And here I thought he couldn't take anything seriously. But just look at him. He's getting so upset over a scratch in his hat, she murmured as she continued to watch. Luffy grinded his teeth angrily. Buggy made a wicked smile. It seems that hat has a history to it. Is it really all that special? He asked. Luffy didn't answer him as he continued to glare furiously at him. However, the two twins were unaware that there was a floating hand behind them as it throws 2 daggers. Luffy saw the attack and quickly jumped out of the way. Aya manages to jump out of the way as well, but the dagger slices through her necklace as the chain got caught around it, retreating as it reattached itself back onto the clown pirate. If it's that important, you should protect it properly, shouted the clown pirate. To Luffy's horror, another hand shot out at fast speed, and before he could react, it grabbed his hat and it was ripped away from him. Luffy hit the ground with a thud as the hand retreated back towards the clown pirate. Buggy grinned wildly at the two twins as he held their treasures. How is this tattered hat a treasure? Ha ha ha. Treasure is sparkling gold, silver and jewels. Like this necklace. Buggy smirked as he looked at it closer. Aya gritted her teeth angrily. Give it back, she growled. As Buggy inspected the necklace further, his eyes widened as they bulged in pure shock. Then he looked back at Aya. He went completely pale. Why do you have one of the 9 pieces of 8? Shouted Buggy. He stared at the girl in disbelief. I don't care what it is. You better give it back, shouted Aya. Give it back, right now. And you give me back Shanks' hat, you bastard, shouted Luffy. Buggy looked at the hat in his hand. You really consider this worthless dirty straw hat a treasure? You need to grow up, he laughed. Shut up, shouted Luffy. That's Shanks' hat, he gave it to me and I promised to give it back. You better give me back my necklace right now as well, said Aya, darkly. What, you mean to tell me that this used to be Shanks' hat? Asked Buggy in disgust. No wonder it looked so familiar. Then he threw the hat on the ground. He always wore it, Wungi. Luffy gasped. Aya's eyes widened in shock. They were on the same ship together. You and Shanks were on the same ship. Yeah, back when we were pirates in training, we were fellow comrades. That damned, detestable, red-haired bastard. Then Buggy crushed the hat underneath his foot as he stomped on it. Shanks is a better man than you'll ever be. You have no right to call him comrade and don't you ever bad-mouth him again, shouted Luffy as he ran towards the clown pirate. He threw his fist back to punch Buggy in the face but he saw it coming. Buggy detaches his head from his body but Luffy quickly reacted and swung his leg and kicked the clown pirate right in the gut. Buggy wheezed as he cursed himself for falling for Luffy's trick. He fell to the ground and reattached himself back together. Buggy coughed and wheezed as he tried to catch his breath. Then Luffy grabbed his shirt and lifted him into the air. Don't you ever mention Shanks' name again, you bastard, shouted Luffy. I can say what I want about Shanks, you little brat, said Buggy. Tell me what happened between you and Shanks. Where is he? Hissed Luffy. Damn it, how dare you do that to my hat? Do you really want to know? Asked Buggy as his eyes flashed in fury. He is the one person I loathe. I will curse his name for the rest of my life. As long as there is breath in my body, I will never forgive him. In all my life I've never met a man who pissed me off as much as he did. That bastard Shanks cost me everything, said Buggy. I don't know how you two know him but I can say whatever I want about him. I've earned that. Then tell me what happened, demanded Luffy. It all happened a long time ago, back when I was still a pirate apprentice and Shanks and I were crewmates on the same ship. Buggy growled angrily as he explained to the two twins. On the deck of a ship a group of pirates were gathered around as they cheered to the two young teenagers who were quarreling and arguing. One of the boys was a young man with short red hair wearing a light blue and black striped shirt and dark blue pants and a straw hat, Shanks. The other boy had blue hair, wearing a white shirt with burgundy stripes and brown pants and a knit hat, Buggy. The North Pole, shouted Buggy. No, South Pole, Shanks shouted back. There you go again. That's right and I can say it as many times as I want because I'm right, you clown. Ho, ho, you have lots of guts, let's fight. I'm going to settle this once and for all. Well, come on then, go ahead and try. Bring it on, I'm going to beat the crap out of you, yelled the two boys as they got into each other's faces. The crowd of pirates cheered and began placing bets as to who were punching each other. Suddenly, a tall man walked up behind the two men and whacked them both on the head. Enough of this. Who cares which one is colder, the North Pole or the South? If you really want to know, then why don't you go there and find out? Said the tall man. The other pirates laughed. Shanks and Buggy glared at each other while rubbing their heads. Then a man from the crow's nest yelled a warning to his crewmates as he spotted an enemy ship heading towards them. All right, prepare for launch, it's time to fight, said the tall man. The other crew members smiled, trembling with excitement. Yes, sir, they all shouted. Buggy smirked, ready for a fight. All right, I'm going to grab everything I get my hands on, said Buggy. You look happy, Buggy, said Shanks, smiling. Of course, the enemy ship is like a big floating treasure chest. It's only natural for a pirate to try and raid it. Am I wrong? Exclaimed Buggy as he got up and pulls out two blades. Well, that is one of the reasons, replied Shanks. No, no, you and all the pirates on this ship are too weak. Taking treasure from people is what pirates do. You know nothing about being a pirate," said Buggy in a taunting tone of voice. But Shanks smiled. As the two ships got close to each other, they began blasting their cannons. Shanks, Buggy and the other crewmates boarded the ship and began taking out some of the enemy pirates. Buggy slashed at another pirate who insulted him. As Buggy turned to leave, he spotted something as it rolled out from the pirate's shirt. He took it and unrolled the paper and his eyes widened. It's a treasure map. I've never seen one before. Incredible," said Buggy as he scanned the map. He sees that there is an X mark pointing on the sea. So, the treasure is buried beneath the ocean, thought Buggy to himself. He quickly hid the map under his shirt as he smirked darkly. "Alright, my life is going to be a lot more exciting from now on." Nighttime fell as the moon was shining high in the starry sky. The pirates celebrated as they threw a party for a mission success on the stolen treasures that they took from the enemy ship. While they were partying, Buggy was outside sitting on the deck with his legs crossed, looking at the treasure map. He grinned with eagerness until someone called out to him. "Hey Buggy." Buggy cringed. He recognized the voice and he turned to see Shanks as the red-haired pirate walked over to him, slightly drunk. Shanks' face was flushed and he was holding a bottle of sake. "Aren't you going to celebrate with everyone? We managed to steal some pretty interesting loot this time," said Shanks. Buggy's face began to sweat bullets as he panicked. He quickly hid the map. "I never stole anything. I don't know anything about it. Go away," shouted Buggy, nervously. Shanks looked at him weirdly, confused. "Huh, what are you talking about?" he asked. Nothing," said Buggy. He sighed in relief, as he realized that Shanks didn't see the map. Then the red-haired pirate took a seat next to the clown pirate and they looked up at the full moon in a daze. "You said you would leave this ship one day, right? What do you plan to do after you leave?" asked Buggy. "I want to get my own ship, gather a group of reliable crew members, and see the world, but I'm going to take my time." "As pirates, of course," replied Shanks. Buggy laughed. "What nonsense. What did you say? I do admire your fighting skills. If you weren't a big softy, it'd be nice to have you as my first mate," said Buggy. "Me, as your first mate? I don't think so," Shanks declined. Buggy looked at him with disbelief. Shanks took another sip of his sake. "We have different outputs in life. It's better if we go on our own paths. That's what pirates do," he said. Buggy laughed. "Can you even become a pirate?" he asked and smirked. "You do know though, that if we ever meet again on the ocean, I'll have to kill you." "Ah, pirates do those things too," said Shanks, smiling. "I really don't understand you at all," said Buggy. Neither of them spoke for a while, then Buggy remembered something that he wanted to ask. "Speaking of which, you said something about loot?" "Ah, I forgot about that," said Shanks. "We found a devil fruit on the enemy ship." "Devil fruit?" questioned Buggy. "Yeah, there's a rumor that says the fruit is the reincarnation of a sea devil. They say if you eat it, you'll have the powers of a devil, but you won't be able to swim again," explained Shanks. Buggy raised an eyebrow at what the red-haired pirate had said. "You would have to be stupid to do that," scoffed Buggy, uninterested. Then he turned to the night sky with a smirk. At first he wanted to eat the devil fruit and gain its powers. He would be the most powerful and fearful pirate on the seas. "But what about the hidden treasure? If I can't swim, then I won't be able to get the treasure at the bottom of the ocean," thought Buggy to himself. "I always heard that the fruit can be sold for 100 million berries." Buggy broke out of his thoughts just as he heard what Shanks had said. "Oh, I see." His eyes widened in shock. "What?" The next morning, Buggy was standing on the deck, holding the devil fruit that looked like a pineapple. It was red and had swirly patterns. "I, Buggy the pirate, will now eat the devil fruit," declared Buggy. One of the crew members laughed with enthusiasm. "You got to love the kids," he said, never considering the consequences. Then Buggy ate the devil fruit in one huge bite. The crowd watched in awe, waiting to see if anything happens. "Well, Buggy, feel anything strange?" asked one of the crew members. No, nothing," said Buggy as he examined his body. The crew sighed in disappointment. They all walked off as they went back to their duties. However, as they left, Buggy made a mischievous smile. Soon, nighttime fell. Buggy was sitting in one of the escape boats, by himself. He smirked evilly as he laughed. Turns out that he stole the real devil fruit and switched it out with fake one and pretended to eat it in front of his crewmates. Yes, the plan went smoothly, said Buggy. Those guys would never think that the one I ate this morning was a fake. To be on the safe side, I should leave the ship before they start to suspect anything. After I sell this devil fruit and find the treasure on the map, I'll have enough money to form my own pirate crew. Suddenly, Shanks appeared from out of nowhere and walked up behind him. Hey Buggy. The clown pirate jumped and he quickly hid the devil fruit as he shoved it into his mouth just as Shanks approached him. What are you grumbling about? Said Shanks. Oh, it's you. Buggy sighed in relief when he saw that it was Shanks. Don't Shanks looked at him strangely, seeing that the clown pirate's cheeks were swelled up from the devil fruit that was in his mouth. Don't be so jumpy, asked Shanks. Buggy glared at him, not answering. If you're stealing food from the kitchen again, you'd better stop. You'll get scolded by the cook, said Shanks as he walked away from the boat. Buggy wiped his forehead, relieved that Shanks hadn't suspected anything. That was too close, murmured Buggy. Before he could relax, Shanks appeared again. Oh, yeah, just remembered, the captain. Buggy jumped as he was startled and he accidentally swallowed, gulping down the devil fruit. Buggy's eyes widened in horror as he sat in silence. Shanks looked at him confused. Then Buggy turned around sharply and grabbed Shanks roughly by his shirt, in rage. Shanks. You bastard. Why, roared Buggy. Shanks stared at him confused until he saw a piece of paper began to float away, drifting towards the sea. What's that paper over there? Asked Shanks. Buggy quickly let go Shanks and saw the treasure map flying away. He screamed and instantly jumped out of the boat, over the ship, to grab it. Wah? Buggy? Shouted Shanks, confused. As Buggy dove into the sea, he felt his entire body go numb, paralyzed. What the? I can't move. The rumor about not being able to swim is true. Damn it. He tried to move his hands and feet, but couldn't and began sinking deeper into the dark abyss below. Up above, Shanks watched, worried, waiting for Buggy to come back up. It has been a minute now and he hasn't still surfaced. Buggy, what are you doing? Why aren't you swimming? Shanks called out to him. He watched as he saw the ripples and bubbles began to lessen until there was none. Buggy. Buggy's vision began to grow dark as he couldn't breathe as he was losing air. Help. Help me, thought the clown pirate as he drifted farther down. Shanks' eyes widened in panic and he quickly tore off his hat and removed his shoes, climbed onto the railing and dove into the water. I'll save you, Buggy. So Shanks saved you life, said Luffy. That's not the point I'm trying to make. Because of him, I was unable to swim and unable to obtain my sunken treasure, said Buggy. But I have finally realized. If I can't get the treasure, then I'll take all the treasures on dry land with my chop chop power. Then he split himself in half and floated above the two twins. So if anyone dares to touch my treasure, no matter who they are, I won't let them live, said Buggy. He pulls out 8 daggers, holding them in between each of his fingers. Then Buggy launched himself towards the two twins. But, as Buggy got closer, he passed them. Get back here, you thief! Yelled Buggy. Luffy and Aya turned to see Nami with a huge sack on her shoulder, trying to sneak away. The two twins realized that they weren't Buggy's target that he was after. It was Nami. Nami cursed as she saw the clown pirate charging towards her. Oh crap, he saw me, shouted Nami. She tried to run, but the heavy sack was slowing her down. No matter where you run, I'll find you, Nami, shouted Buggy. I'm going to slice and dice you up. As Buggy got closer to the girl, he crossed his arms into an X, getting ready to strike. Nami's eyes widened and she gasped. No, I can't die now. I made a promise. I refuse to die, thought Nami to herself. She heard Buggy's laugh as he was getting closer. Nami shut her eyes and bent down on her knee, waiting for the blades to pierce into her skin. But nothing happened. Curious, Nami opens one eye to see that the clown pirate had froze in front of her. He had a pained look on his face. What happened? Thought Nami. She looked behind Buggy and she was dumbfounded by what she had saw. Luffy had kicked the clown pirate right on the crotch. Buggy had left his other half unprotected. Luffy smirked. Buggy fell to the ground, howling in agonizing pain. My balls. My BB balls. That was a cheap shot, he choked. His other half trembled in pain as well. Luffy turned to Buggy with a big grin on his face. Hey, did you forget? You're fighting us, he said, then he saw Nami and waved. Hey, Nami, said Luffy. You should probably let go of the treasure and run, he said, pointing to the sack of treasure on the girl's back. He'll come after you again, if you don't give it back. No, leave this treasure. Definitely not. This treasure is worth 10 million berries? Why should I throw away my treasure? Argued Nami. Aya smirked. You know, for someone who talks about treasure the way you do. You sure do talk like a pirate, she said. Nami glared at her. I am not a pirate, she shouted. Your treasure? Yelled Buggy. The three saw that he was starting to recover. Of course it is, exclaimed Nami. I'm a thief who steals from pirates. Now that I've stolen yours, it makes it my treasure now, understand? She said with determination, then raised her fist in the air. Luffy smashed his fist against his palm as he understood. Ah, that makes sense, he said. Bullshit. Those are my treasures, growled Buggy. Just because you stole it, doesn't make it yours, you dirty stinking thief. Honestly, what did your parents teach you? Nami looked at him. A thief lecturing another thief is ridiculous, she smirked. Buggy's turned red like a tomato as he was furious. What did you say? He shouted. Whatever. The day I'll take a morality lesson from you is the day I'll stop being a thief, shouted Nami, and she sticks her tongue out. You better prepare yourself, Nami, cried Buggy. Then he separated all of his body parts, which startled Luffy, Aya, and Nami, who were caught off guard. Buggy turned to the two twins. Ha ha ha. You think you can help your friend? You better start doing it now, he shouted. Then all of the parts charged directly at Nami and she ran. Damn him, shouted Luffy. Return my treasures, shouted Buggy as he chased after the thief. No, shouted Nami. Get back here, you little bitch, shouted Buggy. I'm not some weak little girl, so don't underestimate me, shouted Nami. Then she swung her at Buggy's head. Luffy cheered. But the sack didn't hit the clown pirate as his hands had caught the bag, he smirked. Thank you so much for returning my treasure, Nami, said Buggy. He tries to pull the treasure away from Nami, but she pulls it back. Let go, shouted Buggy. No, you let go, shouted Nami. This treasure is mine. No, it's mine, I stole it first, shouted Buggy. Luffy and Aya watched the two as they tugged the sack back and forth. Aya turned to Luffy. Should we step in? She asked, unsure. Luffy smirked. Didn't you hear my sister? We're your opponents, he shouted. Luffy ran towards the two, then he leapt into the air. Gum gum pistol, his legs stretched as he kicked Buggy right in the face. The clown flew backwards, knocking the sack out of Nami's hands as he collided with it. The treasures fell out of it as it went flying everywhere. Buggy skidded on the ground, then smacked straight into a stone wall. His limbs fell to the ground lifeless, as he was knocked out. Luffy grinned triumphantly while Nami stared, stunned. You can take that kick as a gift from the mayor, shouted Luffy. Thanks, you saved my life, said Nami. Luffy grinned. No problem. Oh yeah, did you get the map? He asked. Yup, I have it, said Nami as she sighed in relief. It's not over yet, you straw hat bastard, a voice called out. Luffy, Aya, and Nami's eyes widened as they turned to see Buggy had gotten back up. He glared at the three with a dark look on his face. Man, why won't he just stay down? Groaned Aya. What, you're still alive? Exclaimed Luffy, annoyed. I'm far tougher than you think. No matter how much pain you inflict on me, nothing will keep me down. I will make you pay for challenging me, exclaimed Buggy. Nami cringed. She looked around until an idea popped into her head and she quickly runs off. Now, get ready to die, shouted Buggy. Luffy and Aya frowned, and got into a fighting stance, getting ready. Reassemble. Chop Shigi. Every single part of Buggy began to fly towards him, reattaching. But something was wrong. Aya snickered as she covered her mouth with her hand at what she had saw. Before the twins, stood Buggy, but he was very tiny in size. Luffy blinked as he stared baffled at the clown pirate's form. Buggy was missing a few limbs, but had his hands and feet. Then Buggy heard someone laughing behind him. He looked to see Nami, but what else he saw made his mouth drop with shock. His other parts were all tied up with rope. "Are you looking for these?" taunted Nami. "My parts?" exclaimed Buggy. Luffy threw his head back, laughing. "Nami, no wonder you're a thief. You're damn good at it," he said in a sing-song tone of voice. Then he looked at Buggy and smirked. "See ya, Buggy," shouted Luffy as he charged towards the clown pirate. Buggy screamed. "Gum Gum Bazooka," shouted Luffy as he threw multiple punches at the clown pirate, sending him flying into the sky. "I win," Luffy giggled happily. Then he stopped as he looked down at his hat, lying on the ground. Aya saw something shining and walked over to it and bent down. Her eyes widened in surprise when she saw that it was her necklace. Buggy must have dropped it during the fight. She picked it up, holding it. She frowned as she saw that the chain was broken. Aya slipped it into her pocket for safekeeping. Luffy bent down and picked up his hat with a sad look on his face. Nami looked at him emphatically. "I'm sorry about your straw hat," she said. "It's okay. I can still wear it. I'm not angry anymore since Buggy is beaten," said Luffy as he put it on, smiling. For some reason, Nami could tell that it was fake. "Don't worry," she mumbled. "I'll help patch it up later." Luffy stared at her with wide eyes. What? Nothing at all," said Nami. Then she turned away. Luffy followed after her. Nami grabbed the sack of treasure that was split in two as it was torn by Buggy. "Could you help me carry this, Luffy? Cause the bag split and I had to split it in two and it's heavy," she said as she held out another bag to Luffy. "You don't give up, do you? Hey, Buggy is really selective about his treasure. So everything is high quality. All of this is probably worth 10 million berries and it's all mine," said Nami. Then she held out the map of the Grand Line to Luffy. He looked down at it confused. "You wanted it, right? So, take it if you want to travel to the Grand Line easily," said Nami. "Are you sure? I mean, you worked really hard to get it," asked Aya. "It's okay. After all, you two saved my life." "Thanks, Nami," said Luffy. "Does that mean you're joining my crew?" he asked. Nami's smile disappeared and she frowned. "How many times do I have to tell you I'm not going to be a pirate? But, being with you guys I'll get to earn more money, so I guess I could join," said Nami. Luffy cheered. The three walked over to Zoro, who was sleeping. Luffy bent down, waking him up. "Hey, Zoro, wake up," said Luffy as he slapped Zoro's face with his hand. Zoro groaned as he sat up, crossing his legs and scratched his head. "The fight's over already?" asked Zoro as he let out a big yawn. "Yep, and we got a map of the Grand Line and a navigator, isn't it great?" said Luffy, smiling. Zoro looked up and glared at Nami. She went completely stiff, not moving a muscle. Then Zoro starts to sway a little. Aya caught him before he fell. He blushed when he was that it was her. Aya smirked. "Does the big bad swordsman need help?" she said in a teasing tone of voice. Zoro glared at her until he felt a sharp pain from his wound. He hissed as he shut his eyes tightly in pain. I don't feel so good," groaned Zoro. "Of course, if you try to move, you'll only get worse. You two are not human after all," exclaimed Nami. "What did I do?" pouted Luffy. "You're the strangest one of them all," shouted Nami. "Anyway, should we check on the mayor?" she said as she looked down at the unconscious man lying on the ground. "Oh, yeah, we should probably wake up the old man," said Luffy. Before he or anyone could move, a shout stopped them. They turned to see a large group of people as they approached them. "You there, you aren't from around here, are you?" asked one of them. "Nope, who are you?" asked Luffy. "We're residents of this village. What happened to the pirates? If you know something, please tell us," said one of the townspeople. "Oh, you're residents," said Nami as she relaxed. "I thought you were more enemies." Nami was about to say something until one of them let a shout. "Oh, mayor!" The townspeople gasped as they saw their mayor lying on the ground knocked out cold. "Get a hold of yourself. What happened?" exclaimed one of them. "The pirates have done this," shouted another. "No, I'm the one who knocked him out," said Luffy. Aya sighed as she twitched her eye, annoyed. He just had to go and open his big mouth, thought Aya to herself. Nami gaped in shock while the townspeople glared at the four. "What? Hey, you didn't have to say that," Nami whispered harshly at Luffy. He blinked. You saw it, said Luffy. I did, but it was for a good reason, said Nami. Then her eyes widened, realizing what she had said. Nami looked and saw the townspeople were now armed with weapons. Why did you harm our mayor? Shouted one of them. We are pirates, said Luffy. I knew it, it's the truth. Pirate? How dare you cause so much destruction to our village? We won't forgive you even if you are just kids, said one of the townspeople. Then one of them saw Aya. Hey, that girl has green eyes. I bet she's a witch as well, he said. Get the witch. Aya backed up as the townspeople were walking closer to the fore. I'm not a witch. You dumbasses, shouted Aya. We're dead, thought Nami as the townspeople started to advance towards the fore. Idiot, screamed Nami. Luffy walked over to Zoro. What now? They won't listen anymore, said Zoro. Luffy grinned. Run. Soon the four ran while the townspeople chased after them. Luffy carried Zoro as he ran, while Nami was carried both of the bags of treasures. Why don't you always speak before thinking? Shouted Nami. This is a good town, said Luffy. Nami blinked, confused. For the sake of their mayor, everyone's doing their best to fight, so even if we told them the truth, they won't listen to us because they're too angry, said Luffy. Nami stared at him in surprise. Quickly, let's turn here. She snapped out of her thoughts when she saw Luffy turn into the alley. He does it so quickly that she almost loses him. Wait. You gotta let me know sooner. Hold on, shouted Nami. The four ran into the alley until they spotted Cho-Cho sitting on the ground in front of them. Luffy, Aya, and Nami jump over him as they continued to run. And to their surprise, as soon as the angry mob turned into the alley to chase them, Cho-Cho started to bark angrily and growl at them. The mob stopped, surprised to see the dog. They tried to get around him, but Cho-Cho wouldn't let anyone through. Both Luffy and Nami looked back with a stunned look on their face. Cho-Cho was helping them escape. Luffy smirked. Thanks, doggy, he shouted. Luffy, Aya, Zoro and Nami made it to the port as they managed to escape from the angry mob. Thank goodness, we somehow escaped thanks to Cho-Cho. Why do we have to be in this situation? Said Nami. It's not that bad. We got what we wanted and now it's time to head off. I guess you're right. Hey, is this your boat? Nice boat, asked Luffy as he saw the buggy boat. Oh, I stole that boat from a bunch of stupid pirates, said Nami. Then three men appeared behind Nami. It was the three pirates who she stole the boat from. They smirked. Stupid pirates, huh? We've been waiting for you, thief. Who knew we would meet again on this beach? Nami laughed, nervously. Luffy looks at them, the back to her. Hey, do you know them, Nami? Yeah, well, a little, answered Nami. One of the three pirates stepped up. Of course, we know her, she was the one who stole our boat. But, since that you have to teach you guys some lessons, nobody messes with the buggy pirates, he said. Then he notices Zoro on Luffy's shoulder. Hey you, wake up, time for your punishment, he said, smirking, as he tapped Zoro's head. Zoro groaned as he woke up, then he shot a menacing glare at the pirate, who dared to disturb his sleep. The three pirates' eyes widened in horror when they recognized him immediately. They screamed in terror and ran away, leaving Luffy, Aya, and Nami clueless at what they saw. Geez, Zoro, what did you do to those poor men? Asked Aya, snickering. Back with the townspeople, the mayor had regained consciousness as he starts to wake up. He opens his eyes slowly and sees them. Mayor, you're awake. Thank goodness, you're awake. The mayor sighed in relief. What in the world happened to you, Mr. Mayor? He stares at them, then looks around at his surroundings. He was stunned as he saw the destruction of some of the buildings in the square. What happened? Asked the mayor. It's been like this since we've arrived. The rest of the pirates have all disappeared without a trace, said one of the townsfolk. Where are the kids? Asked the mayor, but the townspeople gave him confused looks. Wait, are you talking about those four? Questioned one of them. Then they're all right. Those damn kids actually had the heart to do such an awful thing to an old man like me, said the mayor when he remembered Luffy kicking him in the head. Don't worry, Mayor. We chased those bastards away, said one of them. Then some of the townspeople started to join in. Some cursing, wishing that they had the chance to kill the four pirates who destroyed their town and what they did to them, The mayor clenched his fists as he grew angrier and angrier as he heard the people's insults. "Shut your mouths," he shouted. The townspeople cringed. They looked at him in shock, wondering why he was angry. "I'm the only one who's allowed to complain about those kids. I won't let anyone else badmouth them, you hear me?" said the mayor. "I don't understand why you're defending those pirates," said one of the townsfolk. "Tell me, where are they?" asked the mayor. I think they headed to the port," said one of them. The mayor took off towards the direct of the port, ignoring the townspeople's protest. "I still have a lot of things to say to you," thought the mayor to himself. Back at the port, the two boats were starting to sail away. "Your boat still has Buggy's flag on it, don't you want to take it off?" said Zoro. "I thought about it, but it'll keep away any unwanted attention if they try to come near us," said Nami. Zoro nodded and started to doze off again. Then the four heard a shout as someone was calling out to them. They looked and saw the mayor. "It's the mayor," exclaimed Luffy. Thank you so much, I promise I'll repay you someday," shouted the mayor as tears ran down his face, happy. The four smiled as Luffy waved goodbye. "Don't worry, take it easy, old man," yelled Luffy. The mayor smiled as he watched the boat sailed off. "Thank you, Luffy, Aya, Zoro, and Nami," he whispered softly. Then he noticed a sack that was resting on the post on the dock. He opened it and gasped as he saw a lot of treasure in it as it shined brightly. "You did what?" screeched Nami. Aya cringed as she felt her ears ring. "I left the sack on the deck. They're going to need it to rebuild their town," said Aya. Nami stared at her with disbelief. "You mean you gave 5 million berries to them?" she said. "Yeah, they're going to need it to rebuild their homes," said Aya. "But that was my treasure," shouted Nami. "You're a thief, you can steal more," said Aya, shrugging her hands. Nami glared daggers at her, looking like she wanted to strangle Aya any minute. Luffy grinned. "Yeah, that's true, and since you joined my crew, that means the treasure you stole now belongs to all of us, and since I'm the captain, I can do what I want with our treasure," he said. Nami's jaw dropped. Zoro watched, amused. Aya laughed. "That's not the point. Those are my treasure," shouted Nami. "Take it easy, Nami," said Luffy as he tried to calm her down. "Don't you know how hard I worked to steal those priceless treasures from those ingrate pirates? Why are you yelling at me for? I told Aya to do it because they needed it more than you do," shouted Luffy as he argued back at Nami. Aya watched at the two with an amused look on her face as they bickered back and forth. "I needed those treasures even more because they were mine. I hope you're ready to repay me back half the treasure you gave them." Are you crazy? How am I supposed to pay you back 5 million berries? "I don't care, you better cough it up." The two continued to bicker with each other. Zoro laughed as he and Aya watched the two bicker at each other. "Well, it looks like we've found our navigator," he thought to himself. "If you ever do that again, you're dead," shouted Nami. She grabbed Luffy by his head and tried to push him into water. "Stop it. I can't swim. If you want it so badly then you go back and get it," shouted Luffy as he struggled to pry the thief off of him. This is going to be a very long day," said Zoro. "Tell me about it," said Aya in agreement. Meanwhile, on an island far off in the ocean, high up on the cliffs, a young man stood watching the sea as the waves danced with a dazed look on his face.